Complicated birth of the god. In a chaotic world, one of the many worlds made by the Creator, was brimming in intense light. No, calling it simple light would be an understatement. If one has to describe it, then the perfect description would be all myriads colors dumped into a single location, creating an abominable thing. No one in the vicinity could explain the phenomenon except for the Creator, who has a slight idea of what it is. Perhaps it has been long since he witnessed another birth of a being from nothingness like himself, but Veldanava could not contain himself from revealing a joyful smile. The phenomenon is similar to how a true dragon is born, however the difference is that this being seemed to will itself into existence. There was no natural law that helped its birth or any variable, it simply wished to live. What is happening, my lord? Besides Veldanava were his 7 beloved creations. Equipped with white wings hanging on their back, the 7 were fixed in their kneeling position. They were the 7 primordial angels, the progenitor of the angel race. These creatures were also one of the first creations of Veldanava after the world. The one who uttered the question was the leader of the primordials, Feldway, named by Veldanava himself. The most notable thing about Feldway is that he held great resemblance with the creator Veldanava. Same long hair waved at the back, mesmerizing beauty that could be described with mortal words. He is transcendent in every sense. The only difference he held was that his hair was designed pure silver, unlike the creator, which was void black. Out of the 7 angels kneeling, only 2 of them have gained their proper consciousness, as the others are still falling behind. The first one was Feldway, while the other is Zelario, a black-haired angel. This angel has a stoic look on his face, but his aura spoke of how powerful he is. Just one glance and anyone can recognize that he is a great warrior. Upon hearing the question, Veldana didn't hold back his chuckle. I believe that another progenitor of a race would be born in this instance. This being would undoubtedly be born with powers surpassing you, so I would like it if you don't act immediately hostile against it, he said, smiling at Feldway, who just accepted the order from his beloved lord. Understood, he said with no emotions. However, he was deeply disturbed by the news. They, the primordial angels, are one of the first created, so their power was not by any means weak. In fact, they are at the top of the food chain at this time. Feldway would have been relieved if his master said that it was another sibling of his hatching, but his words alarmed him. Just thinking about the cryptids which annoyed them too much was already a headache, now another race is forming. Veldanava, perhaps sensing the thoughts of Feldway, patted his head. There is no need to be tense, this creature is nothing like Ivaraj, just take a glance at that magnificent spectacle, can you really say that whatever may be born from that is purely evil? Veldanava calmly spoke, pointing at the myriad of colors. It was intriguing though, since the vacuum has no signs of stopping, it still kept gathering all light from the universe, and Veldanava has to constantly feed it magicals to avoid destroying his world from the hunger of this being. I guess we have to wait, Veldanava commented, activating his magical breeder reactor. By taking in the magicals from their surroundings and mixing it with their own, they then collide together in a process similar to nuclear fusion and create more magicals. This allows the user's energy to increase dramatically, and no matter the consumption, it will not decrease. In other words, infinite magicals. The angels gazed at the effect with fervent eyes. No matter what their master did, it never ceased to amaze them. Just like now, they themselves could never imagine wielding such insane power, yet their lord was doing it without any sign of difficulties. It was not long before the silence was broken, mainly by 2 beings with the same aura that the creator has. They were flying at ridiculous speeds equivalent to tens of times that of speed of sound. Veldanava smiled at their arrival. He was excited to show his sisters the new being that would be born. Brother! Both of them exclaimed, wondering what was happening. The 2 were just sleeping with nothing to do when a great disturbance forced them awake. Immediately sensing their brother's aura, they were quick to fly at the location. What greeted them shocked the 2, not from the fact that a creature is about to exist, but rather from how their brother is helping it to hatch. A dangerous act, if they may say so, but with their utmost confidence in Veldanava, that worry became nothing. Velzard, also known as the Frost Dragon, was the second born from the true dragon family. She appears no older than a girl in high school, with fair skin, eyes the color of blue diamonds, and long, glossy pearl-white hair tied into twintails reaching her waist. Her attire consists of an off-shoulder white and blue dress and blue boots. She also wears detached white sleeves, a blue star-shaped pendant and a gold headband. She assumed this form is not to disturb her brother with the wild blizzards that her true form would unconsciously release. Brother, is another one of us being born? This procedure is unlike how it happened with Velgrind, Velzard asked, tilting her head. She was confused since Velgrind's birth was nothing like this. She just released some dangerous flames that threatened to swallow the whole world if not for the help of Veldanava, who suppressed it. Ah, unfortunately this one is not a true dragon. Even I have no idea what will form from this, but I am expecting, Veldanava replied. Too bad, and I was just hoping for some little brother to play with. The one who made this comment was Velgrund, also known as Scorched Dragon. Velgrund has azure blue hair kept in twin buns with black ribbons and deep gold eyes. Her attire consists of a dark-colored china dress with a golden dragon pattern as well as white long gloves and white thigh-length boots both adorned with gold ornaments. I hope for that too. He just gave her an amiable smile. Velzard and Velgrund took a closer look at the light, however it was far too complex for them to analyze. What is your plan with this brother? It might be weaker than your pigeons right now, however I doubt that would last for long, Velzard commented, inspecting the amount of energy being gathered. Although her words might be rude towards her brother's servants, she doesn't care as they are not close to her level. Well, considering its pace of growth, keeping it inside the cardinal world would spell nothing but destruction. I intend to bring it to another world when necessary. You can rest easy. Veldanava made that decision. He thought of sealing this being but held that thought back. Disastrous is not even a word if it gets out of the seal. If you say so. We will return now, brother. Velzard nodded her head in understanding before bidding farewell. Both her and Velgrund took their majestic dragon forms before flying away. Those two are really handful. Veldanava smiled bitterly before continuing what he was doing. Hours turned into days and days changed into years. Without even leaving that spot, Veldanava meticulously sent a surge of magicals towards the being. 48 years have passed and yet there was still no reaction from the light. Anyone without patience would have left long ago, however for immortal creatures like Veldanava, time is merely a number for them. A century could pass and it would feel like a second for them. That is exactly how Veldanava felt right now as he joyfully hummed. My lord, would this not be enough? Feldway spoke of his confused opinion about the situation. For some reason, the creator was meekly interested in this creature. It never happened before because despite creating a handful of beings in the world, he was never satisfied. He kept on searching for something and his loyal servants were disappointed that they could not help what it was. Feldway and the other primordials don't know how to take this situation as they believe that their master is just wasting his time in this light that after 4 decades finally took the form of a blob. Feldway considered this a failure already, yet his master seemed to think otherwise. What do you mean, Feldway? Veldanava was not offended by being questioned by his subordinate but rather thought of it as growth. Is this not a futile effort, my lord? The amount of energy it contained has long passed the reservoir of Lady Velzard and Lady Velgrund. However, after all of that there was still no reaction. Feldway pointed this out. Zelario gave a side eye to Feldway, who was far too preposterous presenting his unneeded opinion. Still he understands that everything Feldway does is for the benefit of the Lord, that is why he didn't do any movement to react. Is that how you think of it? I have a different opinion though. This seems to be the most interesting thing I have ever encountered. Hearing that, Feldway has no more doubts. He didn't dare to question the creator again. Well, just look at this. Something is happening, Veldanava said, pointing to the blob which was vibrating. The angels couldn't tell from how twisted it was. Oh, I really am helping a monster here. Laws are getting afraid of its existence. That's a first. He spoke with a jovial tone, unbothered by the concern his servants had. Why are they concerned? It's simple. The environment around them was transforming into a bunch of mess. Rules and physical laws were thrown away and now nothing makes sense. The direction was overturned, the up became the left, the right became the left, and the more seconds pass the harder it is to grasp. It is only a matter of time before the world would be influenced by what is happening. The gravity changed its force and instead of dragging an object down to the ground, it is throwing it everywhere. The force kept rising from 9.81 to 15.28 to 43.5 etc. There was no signs of stopping and the atmosphere just kept getting heavier. Pressure like these might not affect the primordial angels, however if combined with the messed up laws, even they could not resist the headache. The colors were being forcibly twisted and instead of the colorful surroundings, it was covered with a veil of black and white. With how things are right now, perhaps even the indestructible world that is the cardinal world might fall. Veldanava, what is happening? A voice called out to the creator with an unusually informal tone to it. There are no creatures that don't respect the creator, for he is the one who made them all, except for this beautiful being that is standing now by his side. She is one of the friends of Veldanava and also a creature that was not created by him. She willed herself into existence and became his friend. This creature is none other than the Queen of Spirits, Ramirez. Veldanava smiled and waved at Ramirez. Take a look. Isn't this fascinating? He said, sounding like a child that found an interesting toy. Bah, now is not the time for that. Your servants are turning mad. Ramirez scolded him, pointing at the angels who were groaning in agony. There is no need to worry, Abuku. Feldway wanted to ease the worries of Veldanava but puked midway. He had to admit that this environment is too dangerous even for them. Oh right, I almost forgot. Veldanava snapped his hand, teleporting the group outside of the barrier. Thank God you came here, Ramirez. My hands are quite full, you see. He smiled happily, pissing Ramirez off. How could I not come? The world balance is literally tripping off right now. What's with this blob? It is way too disgusting. Ramirez shouted while pinching Veldanava's ears. And what do you mean your hands are full? Ramirez questioned, wondering what Veldanava is talking about. He is literally the embodiment of omnipotence here, and he was speaking like he was helpless. Ha ha ha, you would know if you inspect it. Veldanava just laughed it off. Ramirez raised her eyebrow before doing just that. Without even a second, she immediately recognized why he talked like that. Reinforcing the barrier so that it would not affect the world, suppressing the chaotic change in the environment, supplying an insane amount of magicules to the blob, and lastly fixing the fabric of space and time that kept breaking throughout the fiasco. She could not help but twitch her lips from the absurdity. Even doing just one of those is already a burden to her. Do you regret tossing off your omnipotence now? Ramirez asked, shaking her head in resignation. Veldanava giggled at her question. Nope. Never will I regret that decision, it was the best. Hearing that, Ramirez could only sigh. So, what do you want me to do? She asked, placing her hand to the hips. Ah, I just want you to use primitive magic and throw as far away in the universe. You may also inform my sisters that I will be gone for some centuries or even a millennium. Veldanava handed his request like it was nothing, and Ramirez was infuriated about it. I don't really care about the first one, but the last will earn your sister's ire to me, you know. Considering how immature they are right now, blaming me would be the least of my problems. Ramirez complained, but still heeded his words. To summarize primitive magic, then, it would be the most powerful form of magic. It is born from the will of the user, and there has been no sign of weakness about this magic. It is also the only magic that can work against a person with ultimate skill, and also the only magic that is available within a suspended world. Ramirez contorted her will and pushed the idea on her mind. Usually this magic won't affect someone like Veldanava, but considering how full he is and he is the one who requested it, the magic worked like it was intended. With a single shout from the Queen of Spirits, both Veldanava and the blob were voided out of existence. They were thrown in the depths of the universe, perhaps the edge part where the border of this verse exists. Veldanava recognized this, so he sighed and cursed his luck. If this doesn't work out perfectly, then there will be a chance where this blob would drift away to other verses. I really don't want that to happen though, he muttered before brushing the problem off. With where they are, he has no need to take care of his surroundings, he is determined to hatch this being with all of his might. And that is the start of Veldanava's quest of hatching the blob up. Time passed rather quickly, and even though it was only a blink of an eye for Veldanava, it already passed 2 millenniums. And for the first time after 2,000 years, a change has finally appeared. The blob that Veldanava was taking care of suddenly cracked loudly. It was great news, so Veldanava took a huge leap to give space for the newborn. It didn't create anything flashy, but with the birth of the thing, came along a massive explosion that took 4 galaxies along the way. The light from that explosion worked like it was intended to, vaporizing any celestial bodies that were unfortunate enough to float in their location. It was a horrifying scene where planets were melting faster than even a second, and for Veldanava it was a sad event. He created those things after all. The creator was not exempted from the sadness one feels if their creation is destroyed. Nonetheless, that sadness was swept away by the delight he felt gazing at the curled young man floating in the void. What should I call this race? His appearance appeared to be the same as mine, yet without the horns or the tail, Veldanava commented, observing the appearance of this being. It was a tall young man with long blonde hair and golden eyes. Its mere figure screamed of authority along with the charisma that it is spreading subconsciously. Veldanava also recognized the concept of fear that the young man is releasing to its surroundings. Then it's decided. You will become the progenitor of the race spectrals. With that, Veldanava felt a portion of his power gushing away. He didn't care since it would regenerate anyway. That was not the end. Veldanava was not satisfied yet. He pondered for a second before reaching a decision. It would be a disappointment if you stay this way. I shall take you in as my son and name you Reinhardt Nava. With that as a trigger, another portion of his power was sapped away. Veldanava did not hesitate to give some of his skill to his beloved son. Among those skills were Ultimate Skill Lord of Wisdom Raphael and Ultimate Skill Wrathful Lord Satanel. Unknown to the oblivious Veldanava, his decision right now would cause some of the most chaotic events in the future. That doesn't matter right now though, as he is far too enjoyed by the situation. The young man finally opened his eyes, and the first word that came out of his mouth was not what Veldanava expected from his son. Now, what kind of bullshit situation am I facing? Thank you for reading. 8 comments, 0 vote. True identity. Please throw some stones. Now, what kind of bullshit situation am I facing? Faced with that question, Veldanava was baffled and he could not answer for a few seconds. Eventually Veldanava was able to gather his thoughts as he answered his new son, who was patient enough to wait for him. Welcome to the world, Reinhardt. I am your father and I am called Veldanava. Everything within your sight is my creation. Veldanava smiled at his son, who has transcendent beauty just like him. The golden aura covering him was also further enhancing his magnificence. The young man widened his eyes at the revelation. He, of course, recognized the name of the creator god from one of his favorite books. What shocked him the most was the fact that Veldanava called himself the father. That is not normal. Reinhardt cupped his chin and looked down as he began to think. Because of that action, he managed to glance at his own body that was definitely not his. It was far too sculpted and beautiful to be his. He still remembered how scrawny his body was. He finally took a proper view of his surroundings and immediately choked, or at least he tried to do so. Koog, I can breathe, he muttered in disbelief. Based on physics, breathing in space should be impossible as it is a vacuum. Veldanava observed the reaction of his new son and decided to give him time to clear any doubts he had. What is happening? He muttered before staring at a single star that was shining brightly at a distance of 45 galaxies away. A ridiculous idea emerged in his head, so he immediately tried to test it. A star, without the law of physics, I can probably take one from the sky, right? He thought as he imagined of plucking that star with his bare hands. Ah, what you are imagining is impossible. Even I, who now has no connection with my omnipotence, you my son couldn't possibly achieve it, Veldanava, as if reading his thoughts, quickly informed Reinhardt. Sensing that nothing is going to happen, and along with Veldanava's words, he dropped his hands. I see, father, he spoke, eliciting a joyful reaction from the creator. Yes, yes, how about I inform you with your new abilities? I sacrificed a portion of my powers to help you, they should be fairly useful, Veldanava said, smiling widely. Reinhardt crossed his arms and nodded his head. He was quite interested in what his new father gave him. Lord of Wisdom Raphael is a skill I created to help me manage the world system. It was initially useful, but now that the system has stabilized, I have no need for it. The creator firstly explained the skill that might be useful for his son. He is so enthusiastic about this that Reinhardt had to close his eyes to avoid awkwardness. It is a helpful assistant that can guide and manage everything you have. You may use it however you like. I will have to ask you to refrain from messing with the world system though, especially in the cardinal world, as it would be a hassle to fix them, Veldanava warned Reinhardt. Understood. Greetings, ultimate skill Lord of Wisdom Raphael, at your service. Reinhardt of course knows what kind of skill this is. He almost finished the work series after all. Sadly, he didn't manage to finish reading the last few volumes. He is actually excited about this skill, but his body is somehow repressing his excitement and changing it into some kind of philosophy. Reinhardt pushed those thoughts away as he began listening to what the second skill is. Although I know that Raphael can handle the explaining, I would like to inform you myself, as her program might not be able to warn you about the potential danger of this skill, Veldanava said with a serious look on his face. Is it that dangerous, father? Reinhardt asked, raising his eyebrows. Now he is more curious to what kind of skill this is. Only a few ultimate skills could make him elated, but if this skill is one of those, then it would be a jackpot. Besides, Reinhardt also felt another source of power he has within his soul. He believed that this power would be enough to handle everything in the Tensura world. He doesn't know where that feeling came from though. The name of the skill is Wrathful Lord Satanel. The main thing you should be mindful of is the subskill it has, which is Magical Breeder Reactor. In simple terms, it would be infinite power. Be careful of how you use this, as you might end up destroying a world or two without knowing it. Just hearing the name was enough for Reinhardt. He immediately knows just how broken it was. Even his body was far from calm. It was revealing a small grin that was far from pure. Veldanava thought of what to add, then he recalled something. I know that you are not really a true dragon but rather a spectral, however keep in mind that I used a lot of my powers and aura when hatching you. It might not be a surprise if you somehow gain an ability that is connected to creation, he said, patting the head of Reinhardt, who got dazed from that. I'm not a true dragon. What is a spectral? This brought a smile to Veldanava's face. That's right, you were born as another species. One I had no idea what is, only you should be aware of your own species considering you are the first of it, he explained. What does that mean? I never heard of the spectral race in Tensura though, Reinhardt thought. Spectral race is a race named by the creator god Veldanava. It is a species that is born in the vacuum of space. Upon inspecting the body of Master, I have discovered few characteristics. First one is that spectrals are immune to almost any status negativity. Poison, petrification, power nullification, instant death, seduction, or any mental ability has no effect on you. Spectrals have a body that induces natural fear to any creature within the vicinity of the spectral. No amount of madness could deny the effect, and the only exception is creatures who are not bound by concepts such as Creator Veldanava and Destroyer Ivaraj. Due to the trait of Master, every newborn spectral shall possess energy that rivals that of a true dragon. If I have to dissect it, then a direct descendant of yours would possess an EP of 50 million as a minimum, or even surpass that if they have potential existence points. Spectral's aura can not only decimate the surroundings but also twist any sense of common sense if spreaded. The last and most important trait is that every spectral has a certain percentage of ignoring the laws of physics. Master, as the progenitor of this race, contained 100% immunity against laws of physics. Any attacks that are considered brute force are useless against you. Master also has a weird 90% resistance against any magic. Aren't I pretty broken? Reinhardt himself was stunned by the report. He expected something like Insectar's amount of absurdity, but this is more powerful than he thought. He shook his head and faced his father. I now fully understand my race, father. What shall we do now? He asked, looking at Veldanava, who seemed to have gained a wonderful idea. How about I introduce you to my friends and sisters? I am sure they would be delighted to see you. Veldanava smiled, giving that suggestion. Reinhardt stopped for a second before consenting. He is also curious about the sisters who tormented Veldora to the point of trauma. One who dotes on him too much and the other who is too strict for his own good. Your situation is no good. If you went there with this body, then forget about destruction. The cardinal world might even end, Veldanava said, pondering what to do. He was thinking of a way to suppress it when Reinhardt suddenly reached out his hand. The action was completely out of his control. His body moved on its own like it was required to do. Reinhardt's golden aura erupted before a spear revealed itself to the world. It was a golden spear coated in heavy gold aura. The presence of the spear was horrible, for even Veldanava was amazed by it. Reinhardt's mouth moved on its own as it spoke the name of the spear, Longinusland's Testament, Spear of Destiny when translated. Genesis level. No, perhaps higher. The creator never saw a weapon surpassing that of he knows. He considered the possibility but never tried delving into it. Now the literal evidence is being shoved into his face. He has no choice but to be dazed by how dangerous it was. Never mind physical or magical attacks, this weapon has reached conceptual level, that Veldanava is sure. Despite not knowing its ability, he can discern that even he would be vulnerable against this weapon. Maybe he would die within a single pierce. That theory is packed with curiosity but not enough for Veldanava to gamble. He has not achieved any grand wishes he has yet. The destined race he wants to spectate has not been created yet. He initially thought it would be Reinhardt's race, but upon observing how powerful he is, Veldanava immediately dropped the possibility. While Veldanava is contemplating things, Reinhardt was silently stunned. He surely recognized the spear, perhaps too well. A theory emerged from his mind as he ordered from his mind. Raphael, can you create a full-body image of me? Certainly, Master. Here is the picture of your whole body. Raphael sent the picture directly into his mind as his jaw dropped from the shock. Reinhardt. Everything now makes sense. Why he has this spear and why he does seem to love everything he spots in this empty place. Trying to test whether this spear is the real deal or not, Reinhardt took another look at the bright star before and lightly threw the spear. Despite being thrown lightly, the spear accelerated and reached multiple times the speed of light as it pierces the star through its core. The star instantly exploded into bits because of his action as a solar system was destroyed. Shit, Reinhardt cursed in his mind, scared by what just happened. He slowly looked at Veldanava, who had a wry smile hanging on his face. I guess we should fix both problems at the same time, he said. Recalling the anime, he suggested something to Veldanava. Father, can you create 3 monuments that will seal my power? I still have another power ore, Tusa. I hope that you can design it so that every time a monument's condition is fulfilled, I will regain that power. Veldanava was very interested upon hearing that. And although he was curious about the other powers, he thought that it wouldn't matter. With how considerate Reinhardt is, Veldanava can already picture a better future. Swastika was 8, but it is a hassle how to spread the relics when there is still no human alive in this time. Alright, I'll take care of it. And with the power of creation, Veldanava went to work. It didn't take long before 3 giant golden monuments were floating before their eyes. It was too gorgeous and beautiful to be called a normal monument, but that doesn't matter right now. You may decide how you will distribute your powers, and the condition for opening this is rather simple. First is the blood of our kin, the true dragons with your will, of course, if you wanted it to be opened. The second is rather brutal. The condition is 1,000,000 souls being sacrificed to the monument even without your permission. He explained it meticulously, trying to avoid any mistake on his part. Reinhardt thought about it and was satisfied. In the anime, the amount of sacrifice was rather small, only amounting to 10,000 souls. They can even take a shortcut by sacrificing the soul of a strong person like someone from the Longinus order. Wait, father, in an instance where a strong soul is sacrificed instead of a million, would it also activate the condition? He asked. Indeed, if someone with a strong soul, at least equivalent to a million of normal ones, is to die, then it would undoubtedly trigger. Veldanava confirmed Reinhardt's fear. I'm fine with this arrangement, father. With that, Reinhardt placed his hand on the monuments as he distributed the powers to each of them. There is no place for him in the cardinal world if he doesn't at least do this. Simply stepping there would cause a continent to sink. He doesn't want that to happen. The spear vanished from his hand as the seal was completed. Reinhardt also coated his body with magicals before transforming it into a god-class outfit. The outfit was the same in the anime. He loved it. Seeing that Reinhardt finished his job, Veldanava took no more time and grabbed his shoulder before teleporting both of them back to the main world. The presence of Veldanava shook the entire cardinal world. There were only a few species at this point and most of them are the stronger side, so almost all of them realized Veldanava's return. Among them were 2 true dragons who missed their brother after a long time of separation. Even Veldanava didn't expect that hatching Reinhardt would take so long, so he admittedly felt guilty. Bunch of teleportation circles appeared in the surrounding area as the guests finally arrived. The first ones to arrive were the primordial angels. The 7 immediately knelt in front of Veldanava while keeping an eye on the new figure beside him. The inhuman beauty of a man was a menace in their eyes. All 7 of them started shaking in his presence, feeling new emotions being added to their arsenal. Excruciating and deep fear. What is this? Feldway was extremely bothered by this emotion. The newly arrived were no exceptions from this intense fear. The imposing and authoritative figure of Reinhardt embedded unnatural fear to creatures who haven't experienced it before. For example, were the 2 true dragons. They were gritting their teeth trying to hold themselves back from erasing the man from existence. The fear is too uncomfortable that they would definitely resort to brute force even in front of their brother just to make it go away. Awawawa, what is that creature? It makes no sense at all. Ramirez was also holding her breath in fear. No one was able to resist the fear that Reinhardt was releasing. And upon realizing that further continuation of this would result in bad relationships, Reinhardt tried his best to keep his aura away from them. Well, don't force yourself. It is innate in your race. You cannot forcibly suppress everything away. As Veldanava stated, even with Reinhardt's best, he could not erase the aura of fear. Only suppress it, to which everyone can now get comfortable. Veldanava did not hesitate anymore. He even went as far as to manipulate the voice of the world just to inform every being in the universe. Everyone must be curious, right? Or rather, most of you should have an idea of who he is. Let me properly introduce to you the progenitor of spectral race. He is named Reinhardt Nava, my current only son. That announcement was greeted with multiple exaggerated screams. Ha! 7 comments, 0 vote. Flawless victory. Please throw some stones. Dash. What is the meaning of this, brother? You had a child. Velgrind shouted. She couldn't believe that her brother returned already carrying a son with him. She should have realized that Reinhardt was actually the blob before, but because of her love for Veldanava, her judgment was clouded. Spectral race. Terrifying. He's really taking this as his child. What is he thinking? Ramirez murmured to herself, taking glances at Reinhardt, who just raised his eyebrow. Veldanava chuckled at their reaction as if he expected it. Lord, is this some kind of test for us? Then we will do our best to finish it. Feldway stuttered, thinking that Veldanava was joking. There is no way they can easily accept this, especially when their first impression with Reinhardt was far from good. He ignited an emotion within them that they rather not experience. It would be hard to accept him without an opinion. Ha ha ha, I understand your concerns, however I am determined with my decision. There is no one that can disprove me otherwise. Reinhardt here is my child, and no matter what you say, I won't change my mind. Veldanava was quite fired up about this. He grabbed Reinhardt and patted his head to show his affection. Sensing that Veldanava has no intention of backing away, Velgrind could only click her tongue while stepping back. Velzard, on the other hand, had a different reaction. She dived into Reinhardt's arms and then began embracing him. Oh, my cute nephew. Yes, your beauty is indeed close to brother. If you grew, you might even surpass him. She just appreciated him, ignoring the instinctual fear of him. Reinhardt was dumbfounded, but so did the others who were watching. Velzard was really something else. Perhaps she just poured the longingness that she felt from her missing brother to his child. The familial love is pouring out of Velzard's body, enough to blind even Velgrind. Reinhardt started moving around, trying to get out of Velzard's grip, because from the light novel, he knows very well how Velzard presents her love to her family. Why are you trying to run? Your aunt still wanted to pour her love to you though. That can't be a good sign. It appears that you need some discipline. Velzard spoke while smiling happily, and before Reinhardt could even react, he was already blasted away to a nearby mountain, shattering that said mountain into bits. Boom. Veldanava massaged his head at the show. Brother, is he perhaps very weak? Velgrind asked, watching her sister being stunned. Veldanava shook his head. That is not the case. Energy-wise, then he is doubled compared to both of you combined. The problem is, he was just born 5 minutes ago. Velgrind's face paled up as she sped up to the place where he was dusted. She believed that Velzard was going too far with that, and family kind should be treated with proper care. Hey, are you okay? Velgrind shouted, jumping beside him. She took a closer look and saw that there was no visible damage to his body. Even his suit was not blemished by the attack. Velgrind herself admits that receiving that attack would damage her, but her nephew took it without problem. What was that? Reinhardt muttered, squinting his eyes. He really disliked what just happened. Although he expected it, it was still displeasing. Please bear with your aunt. That is just the way she shows her affection. Velgrind hurriedly explained to him while shielding him against the incoming Velzard. Velzard appeared as she analyzed Reinhardt. She was relieved inside that he has no wound, but was displeased by the glare he was giving her. Oh ho, you still dare to rebel against your lovely aunt? That cannot be. I'll need to fix that attitude. Velzard descended as she clicked her tongue towards Velgrind. Get out of the way, dear sister. I would not like it if you were injured in the process of disciplining our nephew. Or did you perhaps also miss my love? Velzard gave a small smile, warning Velgrind. Shut up. I won't let you harm brother's child. Velgrind barked back, showing no signs of backing down. And while they were confronting each other, Veldanava and the others were discussing the show. Veldanava, are you sure that you should let them be? Your child might die at this rate. Ramirez spoke of her concern to Veldanava, who was admiring the 3 monuments floating in his hand. He minimized the size since it would disturb the others. Veldanava chuckled, hearing that. This would be a good first fight for him. Besides, I doubt that he would die. His body is sturdier than any of them. His race is a bug, you see. He shook his head, disregarding her concern. The only weakness Reinhardt has is magic, but that is hardly a problem considering that he has absolute 90% resistance against it. Primitive magic is included in that resistance. Ramirez tilted her head but analyzed Reinhardt's physical body. She shuddered from fear of what she discovered. Is this real? What kind of monster is he? She shouted, pointing at Reinhardt, who already stood up and patted the dust from his body. It appears that he was ready to face Velzard, and there was no more panic on his face. Weapon, I need one, Reinhardt muttered immediately, turning his gaze at the monument. However, he quickly destroyed that idea. He believed that it won't even be a fight if he dares to bring that thing out. Only true and undoubted death shall become the conclusion of such action. Raphael, form me a spear, he thought as the skill swiftly went to action. Understood. Implementing excessive magicals to form a spear similar to your Longinusland's testament. Reinhardt was satisfied hearing that. Raphael was quick on her hands as the spear immediately materialized within his grip. He took a closer look at it, realizing that the conjured spear was equivalent to God class. Enough to cause significant damage against true dragons. He slowly began walking to the two with grace. Each of his steps seemed to represent a concept of gracefulness. Nothing could hinder his path, for all bellowed under his aura. Ha 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 ha. Reinhardt laughed like a madman, yet his mere laughter appears to have some seduction added from how beautiful it was. I understand both presentations of your love, dear aunts. Unfortunate as it may be, your love cannot be compared to mine, for my love is nothing but pure. It is the epitome of love, the love that treats all things equally. Despite coming from Earth, his mind was already getting influenced by the original Reinhardt. This path he is weaving is dangerous, towards the world even. But that does not matter anymore. Now, let's step up to the calling. Reinhardt shouted before stepping in the ground, moving at the speed of light. He reappeared between the two sisters and lightly swung his spear to them. Zoosh. Because the two were mesmerized by Reinhardt moments ago, leaving them open. Reinhardt's attack was successfully received by the two, blasting them away. I shall give you the honor to experience my love. It would be the most delightful event of your life. Fear not of darkness but love instead. Reinhardt smiled, taking a small step back, narrowly avoiding the claws of his aunts that returned to pay back. Within millisecond, he gazed at both of them before smiling. Perfect, he muttered, thrusting his spear at Velzard. The spear's tip suddenly brightened before a beam of light gushed out, blighting her away. Because he prioritized Velzard, Reinhardt could not avoid the second claw that Velgrind threw. His body was sunk into the ground as the pressure of it threatened to destroy him, or that's what Velgrind thought. I would like to congratulate you for finding out one of my traits. Have you realized by now, dear Ant? Reinhardt asked, getting out of the crater before floating in the sky by stepping in the air. Normally illogical but with his body, fairly natural. Velgrind narrowed her eyes at the cheeky nephew of hers. She just wanted to help him but to think he would salvage her instead. That really infuriated the scorched dragon enough that she wanted to discipline him too. But from the look of it, that seemed to be a difficult task. She took a look at Velzard and spotted her grasping her shoulder. Upon closer inspection, it was verified that the beam of light did manage to burrow deep into Velzard's flesh. That is really bad. The pain must be excruciating, Velgrind thought, but she focused more on the problem at hand. She was absolutely sure that she pushed at least half of her strength into that claw, yet this nephew of hers not only managed to get out unscathed but also spoke some complex words. Does he have immunity to physical attacks? Even if he does, it won't work against us since true dragons are absolute in everything. We are the peak of existence, bypassing physical immunity is natural for us, so how? She began thinking. Reinhardt, who gazed at her, was disappointed. I see, even with the evidence boldly revealed at your face, your delicate ego still cannot accept a factual truth. I wept at your discomfort, and if it may convince you, please start attacking again, he said, opening his hand at Velgrind, gesturing her to continue. Velzard reappeared beside Velgrind as she glared at Reinhardt. That hurts, you know. Like a lot. I admit that I underestimated you, but do you really need to peel off my flesh? It was troublesome, she complained to Reinhardt. Is that so? Then I apologize. I failed to recognize how low a true dragon can be. It was to my failure that I caused you some pain, dear Ant. Perhaps limiting my strength furthermore would be appealing to the world, he said while smiling bitterly. His words caused some psychological damage to the two though. Their pride was deeply gouged and it became a good source of anger for them. You've gotten really cheeky now. We will teach you a proper lesson you will never forget. Velgrind shouted as the two dashed towards Reinhardt. It might be unfair, but they are determined to punish him for his insolence. Very well, you are permitted to become my adversary. As a handicap, I will inform you that my body is devoid of laws that rule the world. Attacks coming from a physical angle would be of no effect. Energy is just an independent variable and temperature-induced breaths are useless. Keep that in mind. Now Velgrind and Velzard lost all interest in conversing. They believed that continuing would only lead to loss of brain cells. But they still kept in mind the note that Reinhardt gave them. Absurd as it may be, they have no choice but to reluctantly accept it. The battle of the three started under the eyes of various creatures wanting to witness the debut of this proclaimed son of Veldanava. The battle lasted for a whole week and the effect on the surroundings was far from good. It was so bad that Ramirez kept nagging Veldanava to stop the fight already, as barren lands might really appear at this point. No, such lands were already created. Ramirez is just looking for an excuse to please her mind and keep her away from the fight. She felt a huge headache thinking of her cleaning the battlefield after the fight. Veldanava was also contemplating whether to stop this or just let them rampart. Based on what he witnessed, Reinhardt was already getting used to his abilities and it wouldn't be long before he could fully crush the two. During the first few days of the fight, Veldanava can still sense Reinhardt using Raphael to help him navigate the fight, but the longer it keeps, the more insane Reinhardt is becoming. And now after 7 days, Raphael has become a decoration that couldn't help Reinhardt anymore. The only use she has left is keeping Reinhardt's aura from spreading, lessening the chance of causing permanent damage to the surroundings. Her calculations are having a hard time controlling Reinhardt's aura as it was in turmoil. Always unpredictable and no signs of proper path. Sometimes it would rampage, and other times would become gentle poison. As far as Veldanava is aware, Reinhardt is only using Velgrind and Velzard as a way to experience unpredictable fights. He is obviously stronger than them at the beginning, experience was his only disadvantage. Are you really not gonna stop it? My work is piling up. Ramirez shouted at Veldanava, who chuckled in amusement. Don't worry, it will end soon, he said, waving his hands in dismissal. Ramirez became even more pissed at that statement. You said that a few days ago. Look what happened. She grumbled about Veldanava's unfair decision. In Ramirez's mind, Veldanava should have thrown the three away far in the space to avoid casualties, but now everything in sight is just plain hell. The earth melted and most of it turned glass from the dragon breaths that the two girls blasted throughout the fight. There was an unending fire that cannot be put out because of the characteristics of their breath. Smoke was rising from the ground while ashes floated in the air. The climate also kept changing, from hellish heat, terrifying blizzards and disastrous storms. The earth is slowly dying and Ramirez is groaning from the thought of cleaning things up. Ha ha ha, I am serious this time. It appears that Reinhardt has finished packing and learning his abilities. He should be fixing things soon. Veldanava laughed as he patted the head of Ramirez. Just like he said, the battle of the two flying dragons against a single spectral is reaching its climax. What seems to be the problem, dear aunts? It appears that both of you are slowing down. Reinhardt taunted the two who just spat another dragon breath at him. Unlike the first few days of the fight, Reinhardt is not afraid of the breath anymore. He can now fully utilize the benefits of his body. Law of thermodynamics. Thrown out the window. Law of friction. Law of motion. Conservation of energy. Not for him. Reinhardt lightly deflected the breaths with his arm as they changed in directions. Come on, I have already experienced every fight in here. Is this what they call déjà vu? This cursed foreknowledge sure is pissing me off. Surely there is a better way for you to attack me, right? Dragon breath doesn't work on me. Your ultimate skills are far too untrained to handle me. No attacks of you worked on me anymore. As Reinhardt stated, there is literally nothing the two could do at this point. Their trump cards were easily nullified by Reinhardt and they are just resorting to brute strength that doesn't even work. Curse you. We will make sure that you at least suffer pain. Velgrin shouted, maneuvering in the air. Both her and Velzard already took their dragon forms long ago. It was hard for them to fight him with human form because of how broken his body is. Ha! Do better. I will now put an end to this. Reinhardt declared, brandishing his spear. It may be a replica, but it still holds close value to the original. Golden light overflowed as a galaxy itself was compressed within the spear on Reinhardt's hand. He pointed the spear at the two and smiled. This victory is flawless. Here I come. Take this, he said with the last trigger. ZHOOOOSHH. The spear flew, surpassing the speed of light as it skewered the two true dragons directly at their cores. The two could not even react before the attack ended their life. Fortunately for the two, Reinhardt wasn't using his real holy relic. If he did, then any chance of them being reborn would be null. My victory is definite. After all, my love is always above. With this, the battle of three powerhouse has come to an end. The winner held his peace for 300 years before the reincarnation of his troublesome aunts. 9 comments 0 vote. True hero. Please throw some stones. After Reinhardt finished his declaration, the only one who applauded him was his father. Ha ha ha, can't you see that? He is just this great. Since he proclaimed himself that way, then I would acknowledge his statement. From now on, Reinhardt Nava will become the only true divine being throughout the universe. Any form of deity is hereby pronounced fakes. Only his pleasure is above the rest. Veldanava announced something using the voice of the world again. It appears that he is just showing his fatherly side and bragging about his son. Why are you so carefree? He killed your sisters, you know. Doesn't that make you at least worried? Ramirez complained, throwing her hands wildly in the air. She can't believe that Veldanava is doing this despite losing 2 of her sisters. Why the long face? They are true dragons. Dying means nothing to us, they will be reborn anyway. Fortunately, Reinhardt didn't use his true spear. That would be the only situation that I would be concerned. Veldanava shrugged her worries off. Ramirez lost the color on her face. Ha, that was not his true power. Question mark. What is this true spear you are talking about? She was worried. No, she is afraid of Reinhardt. He was just born, yet he is already showing something worth fearing. Ah, right. Now listen here, everyone. I would like to warn you, since people make mistakes from time to time. The only mistake that I wouldn't want you to commit is releasing the seal to my son, all right? Veldanava assumed a serious pose, but because of how he talked, it somehow looked comical. See these 3 floating things? They are monuments designed to seal Reinhardt's power. Every time a condition is fulfilled, the monument would collapse and release the power that is capable of destroying the world. We already tested some of its capabilities, and well, let's just say that it is better not opened. He began a lecture to everyone in the surroundings, making sure that they take this seriously. Reinhardt could be a great reinforcement, but also a terrible bomb. Imagine if somehow dares to open his seal just because they wanted to destroy the world. That is probably the easiest way. Listening to Veldanava, every creature has no choice but to acknowledge that Reinhardt is a similar being to his father. Absolute. Do you have any place to dwell, father? I might be sorry for the damage I caused, however I have no use for cleaning things up. All of my abilities are designed to spread love, not for creation, Reinhardt asked, looking away from the battlefield. As expected, even with the influence of real Reinhardt, the morals from Earth Reinhardt are still intact. Oh, I got it. You should stay inside Ramirez's labyrinth for a while. She'll be busy fixing things here with me, so she can't entertain you. Make yourself at home there. Veldanava gave him a thumbs up. Ramirez immediately exploded hearing that. Wait a minute. Exclamation mark. Why my abode? I haven't given my permission to this. What if he decides to destroy everything there? I would hate that, she complained endlessly. If one were to logically think of the situation, every opinion Ramirez stated is proper. Sadly though, she is facing some of the most unreasonable creatures within the planet. No can do, it's already been decided. Here are the coordinates, son, you may take your time. Valdanava ignored the wailing Ramirez. Don't commit arson or genocide there, alright. I will definitely let you experience my 48 special techniques. I bet one dropkick would be enough to finish you off. Ramirez shouted, thinking that Reinhardt was going to fly already, but to her horror, he stopped on his track and gazed at her with coldness. Oof, course that was just a joke. You can go ahead and make yourself at home there. She quickly retracted her words, afraid that it might ignite his anger. Reinhardt though just gave her a sly grin before walking away. Ramirez was left baffled and irritated by the action. She almost wanted to throw at least one primitive magic at him to teach the brat a lesson, but thankfully she was stopped by Valdanava. It doesn't matter now, right? We have to fix this problem first, he said, pointing at the half of the continent that has been massacred by the battle. Ramirez's headache turned into a migraine, so she just poured all of her anger into one loud shout. Ha! Feldway was in turmoil. He and his fellow angels still could not process the fight that just ended. The scale of the battle was not small, rather it was a world-class battle. They initially believed that they were the strongest creatures on the planet besides the family of the Creator. Now that notion was destroyed by the arrival of their Lord's proclaimed son. The power that the man possessed was beyond their understanding. The fight against two true dragons was still within their sense, but upon hearing that it was not his true powers, the angels had to change their minds. What could be sealed inside those monuments that their Lord made a thorough and careful warning to them? Does the power really spell the doom of the planet? If so, would that power be attainable by mortals? Feldway does not claim himself as transcendent, especially when Valdanava is soaring high in the sky. He view all creatures besides the true dragons as mortals, so he pondered whether such power would be available for them. All Feldway wanted is to serve Valdanava to the best of his ability. Sensing that his thoughts are stepping on the line, Feldway stopped. He now firmly believed that in the impossible situation where their lord perished, his son Reinhard Nava would take the throne. No one would be able to say otherwise. I need to use my utmost best to be of service to Lord Valdanava and Lord Reinhard, he muttered, gazing lovingly at the laughing figure of his lord. It was a sight to behold. Reinhard walked for miles and miles, and he didn't seem to be bored from the journey. He simply appreciated each and every creation his father made. From the beautiful landscapes to small animals, all of them triggered his love. Unfortunately though, no animals could get close to him as they were all embraced by the blessing of fear. Still, there is really nothing in this world. Humans aren't even a thing yet, how am I supposed to amuse myself? Reinhard pondered about that subject. He is sure that the creation of the divine ancestor Twilight won't be long and many races would then flourish. That future really elicited some excitement from Reinhard, but since he doesn't possess that power, he would simply let time flow. Days have passed until Reinhard finally reached the location of Ramirez's labyrinth. He didn't even bother to pay respect but just directly barged into the labyrinth. Upon entering, Reinhard was immediately greeted by the sight of intricate pillars and walls. They were marvelous to the eyes, and even Reinhard had to admit that it was pretty. He quickly scanned the place, wondering if Ramirez had already returned. To his relief, she was still occupied with her work. Or maybe she already finished but just wanted to stay away from him. Reinhard can surely picture that. What an interesting woman, he muttered, shaking his head. Reinhard decided to stop and just started to look for a place to rest or something. He has been traveling for a few days already, and the thought of sleeping in the grass or stone seemed to ignite a sense of disgust from him. He kept searching and searching without using any perception ability. To his dismay, the floor appeared to be repeating and just kept on playing with him. He finally remembered that there should be some fairies right here, especially when Ramirez is still in her peak. If no one decides to step up, then decimating this place will be the only result. This will be my last warning, Reinhard said, narrowing his eyes at the surroundings. That statement worked flawlessly as hundreds or thousands of spirits appeared in the air. Most that revealed are either greater spirits or so, the lower ranked cannot stand within Reinhard's presence, so they were ordered to back down. WWE are truly sorry. We were given orders to not let intruders roam around freely. One greater spirit of fire spoke while shaking violently. Reinhard immediately recognized the problem. No one here can give him a proper conversation since fear would always creep in their minds. Realizing that, Reinhard decided that finishing the chat with a few words would be better. I am Reinhard Nava, and I was told that Ramirez's labyrinth has a proper place to relax. Please at least guide me to a room that I can use to rest. I won't bother you after. Also, Ramirez is my acquaintance. You need to worry about being scolded. He pointed all of the points, giving them a smile. Sadly to the others, it merely looked like he was showing them a feral grin that threatened to devour all of them. Heh, you understood. Another great spirit of darkness answered. The spirits panicked, wondering what to do as they couldn't properly align their thoughts. Reinhardt was getting tired of that, so he just began walking around, hoping to lessen their fear of him. And it somehow worked. Because the moment he was out of sight, the spirits momentarily gained their breath. They could now gather their minds and look for a proper solution to this world disaster problem. What should we do? A greater spirit of wind asked while looking at the others with pitiful eyes. Should we just let him inside of those dangerous rooms that Milady created? The one that traps any creatures for eternity. She created that for fun, but perhaps this is the right time to use it, a greater spirit of Earth suggested. The others were attracted to his proposal, but they were ultimately reasoned by another voice. Don't be stupid. Are you wishing for this labyrinth to collapse? Think logically and remember his name. Recall something unusual. It was the greater spirit of light. The reason why he is protecting Reinhardt is because he has a bottled up wish inside him to make Reinhardt a great figure. Sadly, he is too afraid to even face him. The spirits began thinking, but finding nothing unusual about Reinhardt's name. Seeing this, the greater spirit of light sighed and gave up. Can't you remember his last name? He asked. Nava, right? What does that even mean? No way. The greater spirit of wind exclaimed as the others followed. They finally recognized that one particular uniqueness. Right. You should at least think before you plan. You were trying to encase the kin of Lord Veldanava inside the labyrinth. Have you gone insane? The greater spirit of light shouted. All of the spirits within the vicinity trembled in fear because although they weren't created by Veldanava, they still recognized his status as the creator. DDO, you think he will accept our apologies? The greater spirit of Earth asked, feeling guilty because he was the one who suggested the plan. We should probably focus more on guiding him to the room of Lady Ramirez. That is the only room she created for comfort, right? We cannot possibly bring him to the playground, the greater spirit of darkness said. They finished their discussion as the one final problem arose in their lap. So, who's gonna guide him? That one question was met with uncomfortable silence. No one really wanted to step in and appease that monster. They believed that they could use that time to do more proper things in life. In truth though, they are just afraid of Reinhardt. Light, won't you volunteer in this one? You were practically revering him earlier. This should be a perfect job for you, right? The greater spirit of water smiled as he suggested. The others instantly turned towards the greater spirit of light as they imitated the smile. Will I do good somehow? I don't want to look pathetic in front of that person, the greater spirit of light thought as he floated in the air, moving to the location of Reinhardt. Unknown to him, almost all of the spirits in this labyrinth were already deemed bad by Reinhardt. He spotted Reinhardt and slowly made his way towards him. The words that came out of Reinhardt's mouth broke his world. You're late. I shouldn't have expected. The greater spirit of light was slumped hearing that. Now that the fear is starting to creep again, he decided that guiding Reinhardt swiftly would be the best. Please wait a second, he said before using spirit magic to create a portal within the labyrinth. The portal was connected to Ramirez's room and without even waiting for his instructions, Reinhardt stepped into the portal. Reinhardt was brought to a large space full of magical things. It was full of vines meant for design and Reinhardt honestly had to nod his head in admiration to this one. His main interest aligns with elegance, but this one can become an exception. There was still no concept of beds at this time and Ramirez had no need for sleep, the reason why there is no furniture to relax in. Very well, you have finished your assignment. I'll give you permission to leave at this instance. Reinhardt gave a side glance to the spirit while handing out his order. The greater spirit of light was devastated. He still wanted to make Reinhardt a true hero, but he couldn't disobey him either. Reluctantly, he left the room with sadness planted on his face. Reinhardt noticed that but ignored it. He has no need for emotional baggage here. He would rather spend his time trying to master his abilities than to waste it. It didn't even take a few minutes before the room started to grow on Reinhardt. The urge to destroy everything inside and replace it with his own creation was tempting. Then a few days passed. Isolated in the room full of greeneries, Reinhardt couldn't prevent his urge anymore. Deciding that vines and flowers are not his thing, he cleaned the room, meticulously picking things one by one. He judged that the angles and pillars of the room were already perfected and there was no need to change them. Using magic to destroy can end up bad, so he placed effort into pulling things by hand. An entire whole day was spent doing just that, and after the room became empty, Reinhardt took action. Raphael, is the blueprint ready? You should have looked into my memories, right? Also teach me how to use material creation. I need it. He gave an order to Raphael, who was happy to receive it. Certainly. Inserting instructions on material creation directly to the master's mind. Master, may I ask for permission to build this project myself? I can calculate while use material creation at the same time. No, just focus on your job. I want to do this by my hands. Reinhardt was quick to reject. Sure, using Raphael might be faster, but there is no accomplishment with that job. He wanted to build things he loves by himself. Things lose their value if it is not made out of your own hands. 5 days later. Phew, it is finally finished, Reinhardt muttered, staring at the beautifully designed room. Most of the things here were gold and silver. It was elegant but not to the point of flashy. He created a bed, tea table, chandelier, and other modern items that can alleviate his boredom. It was perfect for the sense of the real Reinhardt. He even wanted to place an obsidian round table somewhere in the room but held himself back. He doesn't even have a kin yet. Reinhardt was appreciating his work when his thoughts were disturbed by loud shoutings coming from outside of the room. It appears that the Queen of Spirits has finally returned. 13 comments, 0 vote. Spirit from the future. Please throw some stones. After a few weeks, Ramirez and Beldanova finally stabilized the entire world. They cleaned up the battlefield and the destruction caused by the clash. There was one place that couldn't be fixed though. It was the place where Reinhardt killed both Belgrand and Belzard using his spear. It appears that his aura was too embedded on the ground that the concept of it cannot be removed anymore. This place would become an object of fear in the future. Sigh, Beldanova, I want a break. Please don't call me for another millennium or so. Why do I have to clean up the mess created by your son? She grumbled, pointing at Beldanova, who was guilty. Ha ha ha, sorry for that, he said, scratching the back of his head. He really dragged Ramirez in this one. What is your plan after this? I am thinking of creating a new species or perhaps a person that can help me with that goal. How about it? Would you like to witness it? Beldanova was determined about this project. He really hopes that his dream race would be born from this. Ramirez squinted her eyes in annoyance. Do you think I'm a fool? I won't fall for that. I bet you are just going to use me if something went wrong. She didn't even butter her words up and just straightly denied Beldanova. I'm going home. I don't know what kind of chaos your son created there. I am worried about my spirits. What if he decided to eat them? Ramirez had enough. She concentrated her attention and forced her will to ignite the magic she wanted. The primitive magic took effect, disintegrating Ramirez's body as it was teleported away. Beldanova was left at that scene, so he just sighed and started his work again. I really can't get a rest now, can I? He muttered, then began working. Ramirez arrived at her labyrinth, but somehow the atmosphere within the labyrinth was far from what she expected. She thought that every spirit would be hiding in sight, trying to avoid that monster of a man. Well, the hallway was silent, but that was not what took Ramirez's attention away. It was the fact that thousands of spirits appeared to be staring at her room. An unusual action that they don't usually do. She walked towards them and decided to reveal her presence. The moment she did that, every spirit quickly swarmed towards her. Lady Ramirez, they shouted in sync. Oh, what is happening? Why are you guys in my room? You usually don't have any interest there, right? She asked, inquiring about the situation. Lady Ramirez, that scary man is something else. We thought that he would be a tyrant, but he didn't do anything dangerous. Moreover, look. The greater spirit of fire was pumped up, as she excitedly explained to Ramirez. Ramirez followed her finger, staring at the room. She stopped on her tracks before her jaw slowly dropped. What is this? She shouted with all of her might before barging into the room. There she saw Reinhardt sitting on a golden throne while giving her a scrutinized gaze. He appears to be displeased by her actions. Lower your voice, woman, this place has no need for hose, Reinhardt said, narrowing his eyes. Ramirez's eyebrows twitched in annoyance. She was the owner of this room. She looked around and saw no resemblance to her previous one. In fact, he changed everything. Colors faded from Ramirez's face. She got closer to Reinhardt but swiftly backed away when his aura touched her. She was frightened to the point that shitting her dress might not be a dream anymore. What did you do to my room? Ramirez sulked, giving Reinhardt the eyes that were searching for fairness. Reinhardt didn't answer immediately but stared at her for a few seconds. Quote. Spare me from the trouble of explaining. It has been decided that this is now my room. You should create another room for you to decorate. The trash you called gimcrack are kept by the other spirits. You may ask them for it. He was ruthless with his words and didn't even bother to empathize with Ramirez. Now, you are just rude. Did your father not tell you to speak respectfully to those who are older than you? Romulus asked. Reinhardt stared at her like he was watching a monkey. Have you forgotten, woman? I have never spent more than 10 minutes speaking with my father. It is more ridiculous that you haven't thought about that, he said, shrugging her off. Now I'm mad. Let me look around your room. Romulus went on her own and started inspecting things up. She stared at the king-size bed of Reinhardt and was confused about it. Hey, what is this? She asked, getting close to it. Make sure not to touch that woman. Your scent might stick to the fabric. That would be displeasing. Reinhardt gave her a side glance before sipping the wine in his hand. His action is so sophisticated that the spirits outside were mesmerized by it, even momentarily forgetting about their fear of him. Romulus clicked her tongue, but instead of following Reinhardt's words, she jumped on the bed instead. That was the pure reaction Romulus had when she drowned from pure bliss. The soft fabric of the bed fully embraced her body as the fluffiness eroded her system. Romulus lost control of herself for a second as she flew through paradise. She stayed in the bed for a few minutes, not knowing that Reinhardt was already giving her a complicated look. She was just released from the spell when Reinhardt finally stood up and grabbed her rough before throwing her out of the bed. What was that for? I was enjoying myself, she complained with tears in her eyes. She just finished her work and wanted to rest. This is the best object for her. A picture that should not be normal for the Queen of Spirits. That's my bed, woman. You can create yours, however, don't touch whatever's mine. Tisk. I need to burn this one and create new again. Reinhardt did not like the messed up bed. He grabbed it and was about to burn the thing when Romulus suddenly held his arm. Wait. Let's make a deal. I'll let you have this room in exchange for this resting machine. Romulus was desperate. She really wanted this thing now that she tasted its forbidden pleasure. Reinhardt raised his eyebrow hearing that. He pondered for a second before an idea emerged on his head. Procure me a spirit. To be precise, one that is not afraid of me, he said, gaining a huge ha. From Romulus. Then forget about it. Reinhardt's pride was high. If the other party objected, then he wouldn't make a deal. I didn't say I wouldn't accept it. Let's go right now. If you are lucky, then some strong spirits might just accept you. Romulus snickered. She believed that no spirit would get close to this abomination, especially with his innate aura of fear. Not even her, the Queen of Spirits, could resist it. There is no way that some spirit would have the courage to face this man. That is what Romulus believed. Romulus took a glance at Reinhardt. She was forced to look up because of his height. No matter how she looked at him, all she can think of is refinement. If only he doesn't have that fear-inducing aura of his, then he would probably become a great figure for the spirits. She shook her head in disappointment at that. Then, follow me. There is a specific place for the summoning. Romulus stood up as she reluctantly glanced at the bed. I will take care of you later. Farewell for now, she tearfully thought as she floated away. Reinhardt can somehow read her thoughts as he just looked at her weirdly. He can never comprehend the mind of women. Nonetheless, that doesn't matter right now. He just followed her despite the woman trying to lose him many times. It was fairly annoying, but since he is the one requesting, then he can't say anything. He also thought that Romulus is a special being in this world, meaning that killing her would result in catastrophe. Romulus reached the summoning place as she grumbled in annoyance. Hey, why can you follow me? I was jumping through floors using my authority. How could you sense me when I even completely concealed my presence? She asked, grabbing Reinhardt's clothes. Foolish question. There is no way such a sloppy way of hiding could be called concealment. Besides, I already memorized your scent. No matter where you are in the world, I can instantly spot you, Reinhardt answered with a small smile. Memorize. When did you sniff me, you bastard? She punched Reinhardt strongly, but as expected, it was futile. Now, quit your yapping, woman. What am I supposed to do? He asked, forcing Romulus to stop. She coughed many times trying to regain her image. Well then, stand over there. In the center and just pray. If any spirit has an interest in you, then they would descend. If not, then sorry. She pointed at the center of the circle. She was happily celebrating in her mind though. Hey, he probably doesn't know that I can just pluck any spirits I want. Let him make a fool of himself, she thought. Contrary to Romulus' expectations, Reinhardt didn't immediately stand in the circle. Something among her words seemed to irk him. Pray. You mentioned praying, right? That is something I would never do. Hailing someone other than myself is a great shame. A god shall never bow to anyone else. While saying that, he started walking. Each step was filled with anger as he finally reached the center. Reinhardt opened his arms as if expecting something before he shouted, If you call yourself a spirit, then present thyself in front of me. Instead of pathetically hiding in these corridors, show yourself and serve this god instead. And that, I would be satisfied. There was a long silence as Ramirez shivered in anticipation. She really believes that something will come out of the calling, but even after 5 seconds, there was no response. Ramirez's smile evidently turned into a grin. Ha 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 ha. You made a fool of yours. She could not finish her words because a heavy pressure descended on the platform. It was a pressure that even her, the Queen of Spirits, was affected. What kind of spirit would show up? I see, only 2 are brave enough to face me. Very well, I shall deem all other spirits as ants and only acknowledge the 2 of you as barely acceptable creatures. Reinhardt announced loudly. The first one of the 2 was a black-haired woman wearing a beautiful white dress. And from what Reinhardt can comprehend, she appeared not of good intention. Watch out. She is out to kill. Ramirez tried warning Reinhardt, but that was useless because he is already aware of that. You dare point your sword against me? Are you aware of the consequences of that action? He calmly asked, ignoring the sword already pointing at him. The spirit seemed to be confused by what he meant, however she still continued to strike because this is the only way to fight against this monster. Ambushing him when he is just new to the world. At least that is what she concluded from the future. The attack descended as Reinhardt was forced to parry it to the side. That was not a good choice though, as at least half of Ramirez's labyrinth was decimated in the process. Just from a single attack. Reinhardt felt that the attack was enough to decapitate even a true dragon. This means that the spirit really wanted to kill him on the spot. Very well, I have received your intention. You must have come from the future, am I right? Be aware that the death of your precious one will be at your behest. For many of your parallel world traveling, I hereby declare that this will be your worst decision. Reinhardt finished his words as he grabbed the spirit by the throat and smashed her on the ground. Now, be afraid, for you have angered me. He stopped suppressing his aura and made sure that everything was focused on Chronoa. Her coming to the past to kill him means that he fought against Rimuru in other timelines, right? No, he can't imagine himself losing, and based on how destructive the attacks of this Chronoa, that means that he killed Rimuru many times. How does it feel to receive the absolute peak of my love? Can you relish the fact that you killed your beloved with your own hands? His death will be the cause of you, and you will travel to an unending journey knowing this. Reinhardt stared deeply into Chronoa's fretting eyes. She was moving around trying to escape his grasps, but it was useless. The fear is already rotting her mind. It won't be long before madness consumes her. Knowing this very well, Chronoa used her desperate means. She is aware that Reinhardt is a monster packed with potential, and everything he experienced once, he would get used to it or directly learn it. Chronoa doesn't really want Reinhardt to get used to this feeling, but she had no choice. Opening her eyes, Chronoa watched as the world stopped. She halted the movement of time itself. Only information particles can do movements within this suspended world. This is her last resort, and seeing that Reinhardt is still frozen, she immediately went to action. She imbued her sword with the ultimate skill and slashed Reinhardt with it. This is actually the first time Chronoa faced Reinhardt, because from all the other timelines, the other spirit kept preventing her. She has no idea of Reinhardt's real skills or abilities. She has heard that he has some resistance against attacks, physical or magical, but she trusts that her ultimate skill can bypass that resistance. Ultimate skills are the epitome of the world after all. Chronoa placed all of her strength to those strikes, intending to end everything in a single confrontation, but to her horror, her attack really did damage Reinhardt, only cutting the first layer of his skin though. The attack that she placed her all was stopped by the flesh of this monstrosity. Chronoa failed to stop her shock from showing on her face. Now that she thought about Reinhardt's words, she now feels endless regret when thinking about the hardship Rimuru will face in the future because of her actions. Chronoa's shock didn't stop there. She froze when she spotted the eyes of Reinhardt moving to her location. Despite experiencing the suspended world for only 3 seconds, Reinhardt is already aware of it. If this continues, then he might really start moving before she can finish him off. Chronoa pushed all the thoughts on her mind as she continued barraging Reinhardt with heavy strikes. Attacks that can kill true dragons were dropped, but alas, it was close to futility. She only stopped when Reinhardt's voice finally rang. 7 seconds have passed, are you satisfied yet? Chronoa lost all hope at that as she fled back to other timelines in panic. That was the first meeting of Mana's Chronoa and Reinhardt Nava. Dash. 7 comments 0 vote. Arrival of the Divine One. Throw some stones, will ya? Dash. Ramirez gawked at the scene, not knowing what to say. She doesn't recognize both of those spirits, which means that they are probably formed in the future, but still. Both spirits are very dangerous. Ramirez was quite alarmed when one of them started attacking Reinhardt. It was an absurd action that naturally should result in a pathetic death, but to her surprise, Reinhardt actually tried to reason with the spirit. Ramirez watched the whole scenario, from when Reinhardt was speaking to the ending where the spirit vanished on its own. There was a gap in time for at least 8 seconds, so Ramirez concluded that there must be some skills that affect time that was used there. The fight ended with Reinhardt was standing alone. What baffled Ramirez the most though is the fact that there is a small cut located above Reinhardt's shoulder. It was a miraculous situation. She, herself acknowledged the brokenness of Reinhardt and she would bet that there is no chance this man could get injured. That was proven otherwise just moments ago and Ramirez is now lost in words. It also looked like Reinhardt gained some goal from the clash, explaining the smile that is hanging on his face. What a crafty spirit, to think that she would create a suspended world. I have a lot to learn, I guess, he muttered while smiling lightly. That just confirmed Ramirez's theory that time was stopped. Reinhardt patted his body to get rid of the dust before looking up again. Get down, your head is too high, he spoke, but surprisingly the other spirit that descended obediently followed his words. The spirit appears as a woman with light blue hair clad in leg and arm restraints. She has an innocent look on her face as she floats to the floor. Reinhardt took his time to discern the spirit and smiled in delight upon recognizing her. Is this another result of my interference in the future? Tell me, creature, did you ascend from being my descendant? He asked. Guess who? He can sense the same blood of his roaming in her body. Reinhardt is certain that this spirit is a product of his creation, there is no doubt about that. Or if she was created using his blood by others, then he would be displeased. The spirit kneeled as she nodded her head in affirmation. This pride of mine won't accept any weaklings as part of my race. Then this means that you have an energy level comparable to my aunt, is that right? He asked another question which was answered with a nod. Very well, I shall accept your servitude towards me. Be honored to reside within me. Reinhardt grinned as he looked down at the spirit. Wait. Why is the progress so fast? Who is she? And why are you talking like you know everything? Future. Ramirez cut Reinhardt off as she ranted. She can't keep up with the complicated things he spouted. She wished that he would kindly explain things to her. Don't be troublesome, woman. I have no obligation to explain to you. Besides, I myself has no idea what she is and I have no interest in knowing. Experiencing the event is the best way to appreciate. Reinhardt shrugged Ramirez off. He has no intention of wasting time with her. TCH, you're really annoying, you know that. Anyway, she may inhabit you now. Just don't complain when she starts rampaging inside you, alright? Ramirez had enough. She lost interest in the spirit that Reinhardt summoned. Now she just wanted to take the bed and rest with it. You can navigate by your own right. I'll leave you now, she shouted before vanishing under his surveillance. It seems like she really wanted to get away from him. Perhaps she was too fed up with his character. That could be it. Reinhardt also returned to his room and began thinking about the future. He was given a lot of clues today, he surely won't waste those huge hints. Thus Reinhardt hibernated for many months inside the labyrinth collecting his thoughts. During those months, Ramirez kept appearing in his room and pestering him with the modern things he had. She was hooked by the various useful objects and hoarded all of it for herself. Reinhardt really doesn't have any objection either, he is shamelessly making her labyrinth his own kingdom after all. The relationship between the two went from cold and full of insults to mutual understanding. Ramirez can now empathize with Reinhardt while he can somehow understand the headaches that the Queen of Spirits has been through. All of that happened because Ramirez wanted to taste the wine that Reinhardt always drinks. She got infatuated with the wine, resulting in her drinking too much. She also lowered her poison resistance to fully feel the effects of alcohol. That action resulted in Reinhardt having to listen to Ramirez's rant for hours. It was a hellish experience he didn't want to encounter again. She was hell of a problem and it was hard for him to look at her. He also didn't have the word comfort in his dictionary, leading to an awkward response from him. Ramirez doesn't seem to mind it though, perhaps because of the alcohol, she just kept ranting without stopping. Reinhardt now isn't too hard on her but still wishes that she would stop bothering him, especially when he is alone, appreciating the world. Just like that 10 months passed. Reinhardt is now staring at their round table that he strongly craved for many months ago. This was the only time where his cravings got ahead of him, forcing him to ask Raphael to create this. He doesn't really understand but he guesses it was just man's romance. Hey, what does this even mean? You have no kin, right? What are you making this form? The Queen of Spirits appeared on his side while asking. She was holding a bag full of fries on her hands, munching on them. As you may have guessed, she gained this recipe from Reinhardt, who was bored. She happily exchanged it with a favor, which was quite stupid if the man had to say so. A favor is almost equivalent to her own life, yet she gave it with no hesitation whatsoever. It just shows how much she trusted him now. After many months of pestering him, Romulus somehow gained a low resistance against his aura. She can now get close to the man without fainting in fear. Good progress for her. Reinhardt stared at the round table contemplating, who knows? Apparently even my mind could not comprehend why I made this. It surely is a tool useful in the future, he just answered like that. Maybe I am part of this circle. That could be it. It should be a circle for the most powerful creatures in the world. There is no doubt about that. Romulus spoke of her opinion. Hell no, besides if I were to recruit people in the world, you wouldn't be included. I have high standards for subordinates, Reinhardt mercilessly rejected her. That's mean. Of course you would recruit me, I am your best friend after all. And just so you know, I don't want to be your subordinate either. Romulus complained by his words of choice. What she didn't expect was that Reinhardt overreacted against her words. He stumbled as if losing his balance before giving her a horrified look. Quote. Since when did I become your best friend? He sounded really scared. Of course, Romulus was triggered by that. Why do you sound so repulsed? You should be grateful that I am extending my goodwill to you. It's not a common occurrence that the Queen of Spirits herself is showing her invitation. She really appears to be pissed. Then I would like to pass that honor to others. If you like to joke around, then check the time and place. It is not good for the heart, Reinhardt said while twitching his eyebrows. Why I'll ignore you for now, she shouted before dashing away. Although she looked really beautiful, Reinhardt could not contain his disappointment from how childish she was. Still, this is a better situation for him, he doesn't have to take care of Romulus if she is upset. Reinhardt can do whatever he wants with no trouble in the way. Though just when he was about to walk away, a pure and strong earthquake shook the entire labyrinth. Reinhardt narrowed his eyes inspecting his room, he checked if something fell and got destroyed. Fortunately, nothing seemed to be damaged. Thinking about the earthquake, Reinhardt found it unusual. Of course, earthquakes are normal in this world, but to that degree, it was far too strong to be natural. Also, he has been sensing an abundant amount of energy seeping outside the labyrinth. He can't just bottle his curiosity up. Reinhardt took a last glance at his room and ordered Raphael something. Create a barrier inside the room. Make sure that nothing is disturbed by the phenomenon outside. Understood. Constructing a barrier within the vicinity. The barrier has properties of anti-magic, shock nullification, physical attack resistance, etc. Raphael was quick on her hands as she immediately formed the barrier. Reinhardt now had nothing to worry about, and just when he was about to leave, Romulus reappeared. Are you going out? Bring some souvenirs, all right. Although I don't believe that the thing outside is a simple one. Anyway, take care. If your father looks for me, then say I went to hibernate. It appears that she just wanted to give him some words of comfort, which was really unnecessary, but nonetheless, Reinhardt still accepted it. With the help of Romulus, he was swiftly kicked out of the labyrinth, forcing him to breathe the fresh air outside. The labyrinth might be great, but sadly nothing can beat the outside world. Reinhardt flew in the sky before sprinting towards the location of the outburst. Why do I have to work? It's such a hassle, a tired voice rang as he slashed a giant into two. Stop complaining, Dino. We should be delighted that Lord Veldanava has given us assignments. It has been long since we fought in the Cardinal world after all, Feldway scolded the lazy angel. They are now currently busy exterminating giants that are following the orders of their king. Still though, this is surely troublesome. The numbers of the giants don't seem to dwindle down. Feldway looked at the source of this problem, wreaking havoc somewhere in the middle of the continent. It was a giant with 3 heads. The giant had an evil look on his face as it massacred the pitiful monsters on its path. It seemed to love destroying things based on the pleasured look on its 3 faces. One of the giant's abilities was to produce offspring, resulting in the current situation. The never-ending number of giants was a hurdle even for the primordial angels. They were strong too. Of course the 7 tried to challenge the Mad King, however they swiftly backed down upon realizing that they cannot win. The body of this giant was strangely familiar, it was too similar to the one Lord Reinhardt possessed. Their attacks cannot get through and the enemy is just playing with them. Feldway and the angels could only try to stop the other giants, hoping that their lord would come soon. It might be pathetic to rely on their lord, however it was one of the lessons that Veldanava taught them. Never to fight a battle they cannot win. They were getting desperate. It had been a few hours and there was no sign of Veldanava appearing. It was getting hard for them to stop this horde. They were fine at first, killing tens of thousands with each swing, but now that the numbers are reaching millions, it was problematic. If Feldway's calculations are right, then this world only has 16 hours before it would ultimately fall under the hands of the Mad King. They, the primordial angels, can escape that situation because of their strength, but for the world, Dino, why don't you suggest to Feldway that we fight that monstrosity again? This won't end unless we kill that giant, right? Pico, one of Dino's friends, whispered to his ears, trying to push the problem to him. Dino stopped on his track and sighed at his friend. No way, despite being like this, I still don't want trouble, you know. Can't you do it yourself? Or maybe you can persuade Zelario to do that. Dino said between yawning. He really does appear to be tired, but sadly none of his comrades care about that. Pico thought for a second. She stared at Zelario but was frightened when the warrior looked back. I guess no progress for now, she concluded, gliding in the part of the battlefield where Zelario and Feldway's eyes can't reach her. Dino's lips twitched at the sly move that his friend did. He regretted not thinking about that first. He could have had a much better time. How about Twilight? Is he coming? Dino asked, looking at Feldway, who narrowed his eyes. He just responded that he is busy with his research and we should not disturb him. Dino saw that Feldway's hands were tightly gripped, making him back away to avoid getting hit by the crossfire. That guy is also too free. I know he was created for that purpose, but still, does it not bother him how chaotic the outside is? I wish I had his guts. Dino thought about the divine ancestor. There is no choice, they have to do this themselves. The true dragons could have helped in this situation, but sadly 2 of them died by the hands of their nephew. The angels have no one to rely on now. Feldway, is Lord Reinhardt available? Zelario, who has been quiet the whole time, finally spoke. There is only one person that could help them and he is not letting his pride get in the way. Feldway's face somehow brightened, so he immediately tried to call Ramirez using telepathy. The news he received was a good one, enough to put a smile on his face. We can finally get a breather, Dino muttered, already concluding on his own. The 7 gathered in one spot as they already sensed the incoming presence. It was a heavy and authoritative presence that stirred their primal instinct of lowering to the apex. They don't know how, but a loud music somehow started playing in the battlefield. The music was elegant and catchy at the same time. The answer revealed itself though when the figure of a golden person appeared in the midst of the fighting. The 7 primordial angels moved as fast as they could, flickering behind Reinhardt, who was observing the battlefield, and with an unusual synchrony, all of them welcomed the honored one with their voices. Hail the Divine One. What do you think about the progress? If you have some plot you wanted to recommend, then please proceed to the comment section. Asthoglho creators thoughts. 9 comments, 0 vote. Mad King Ashura. Throw some stones for motivation. Dash. The moment Reinhardt stepped into the battlefield, almost every creature within the vicinity stopped moving. Many reasons could be provided, but there is only one that piqued them all. It was fear. An overwhelming fear to the point where picturing their success is nothing but a mere dream now. That is the tantamount of the fear that they are currently experiencing. That fear was heightened to the top when their gazes caught the floating figure of a person. The golden aura shrouding its body was intense, dramatically intense, that their thoughts swiftly went to a single conclusion. That person is a god. There is no doubt in their minds that the newly arrived enemy was a being above their understanding. Merely comprehending it would only result in madness. Some giants began running away in panic, entirely ignoring their king, who was enraged by their actions. Those who moved first to run were the earliest to perish, for Reinhardt's aura crushed them into oblivion. It was a simple show of strength, yet so effective it rendered the enemy forces cripple. Among the millions of giants, only tens of thousands can even move. The others were frozen in fear for the worse. Perhaps this would be the greatest representation of guillotine hanging on their necks. One wrong move, then it would be over. It was a despairing situation for the proud and mighty giants. A single being managed to upturn the tide of the battle, without even trying to attack, but still managed to destroy all sorts of hope and happiness they possess. Quote. How repulsive! Exclamation mark, question mark. The divine being spoke for the first time upon arriving. Only 2 words were uttered, however the sense of devastation it conveyed was truly deep. The fear was enhanced once again, and now many have fallen into madness. Everything he does seems to affect the battlefield. The sound of his footsteps gave them an image of a dragon chasing them. The flutter of his clothes gave dreadness as they anticipated his deadly blow. Even his mere breath brings terror to their very fiber of being. The 7 angels who were kneeling behind him further escalated his figure. Nothing would compare to this scene. Reinhardt stepped forward, observing the giants beneath his feet. The image of them swarming away in panic was strangely similar to that of ants working. This action of theirs dropped the expectations of Reinhardt, so he just began his opera. Amidst the turmoil, a serene presence emerges. Allow me to grace this stage with the elegance of a maestro conducting a symphony of fate. He stated while a small ball of void floated in his index finger. Normally invisible from how small it was, but if one takes a closer look of it, then they would discover that it contains shiny fragments that looked strangely similar to that of stars in the night sky. Reinhardt discovered his innate magic a few months ago when Raphael was inspecting his body. Apparently, most of his magic used stardust particles and has resemblance to space stuff. He judged that he can probably use this because he is the son of Beldanava. This small ball is just a simple use of his magic and he would like to test the danger level using these volunteers. Reinhardt finished his preparations so he just flicked his finger shooting the void of a ball towards the running army. Zing GGG. A loud white noise invaded everyone's ears as a white flash blinded all. There was no dramatic explosion, only that two effects, yet the land that they stared before was already no more. Only a large leveled crater that runs through miles and miles prevailed. A simple spell of Reinhardt took out almost 30% of the enemy army, and that was only a test of his. He stared at the result of his action, and no matter how long he gazed, there was no regret that linger upon harvesting a large amount of lives. Or that's what he thought. Reinhardt slightly widened his eyes when he thought about the wasted souls that are slowly drifting away. My legion hasn't been formed. This is undoubtedly the perfect situation to create one. The souls of these warriors are suitable for my throne, Reinhardt muttered as he stopped eradicating the enemies. Instead, he looked around and immediately spotted a large monument pointed at the sky. It was located near the Gate of Heavens. He thought for a second before rejecting the idea. Considering that his spear was already formed, this means that he probably already possessed millions of souls within his arsenal. Raphael, anything to report? He asked, wondering if Raphael purposely didn't speak about it because he was busy. Positive. Gladsheimer can be conjured whenever the master wants. Albeit it is only a shadow and it is missing some vital parts including the three commanders, however their abilities remained. To utilize the full capability, Master must initiate Absoluth. Reinhardt was elated to hear that. Wherever he looked on the battlefield, there was no aesthetic he could find. Only killing and carnage that doesn't even have any meaning. He cannot let that continue, can he? The answer was unquestionable. Reinhardt will now properly move according to his will. It has been decided that this battlefield will now become my entertainment. Nothing will escape my eyes, and you Cretans shall entertain me with your wails of despair. His dominating voice spreaded through the land as the mental fortitude of the enemies began breaking down. The sky was drowned in black clouds threatening to pour any moment. With his arrival, even the sky did not resist and wept. The only source of light that was left on the battlefield was his gallant figure bathed in golden aura. There was nothing more sophisticated than him. Unknown to Reinhardt, the urge to bring his love to the outside world has started to affect his mind. He cannot stand by any longer and will present them his pure love. Do not resist. Embrace the blessing that I will bestow to each of you and know that you have been given the honor to become part of my legion. Receive it. Your existence shall become my nourishment. Reinhardt's overwhelming energy seeped out of his body as it began rampaging around. Every creature that was hit by his aura was either blitzed or dusted to the point of no recognition. And just within 20 seconds since he stepped into the war zone, the enemy numbers had dwindled to a mere 20,000. Their previous numbers seemed to be a lie because of what just happened. There were no corpses of the giants that perished, for it was disintegrated into bits by his mere aura. It was just that dominating. You bastard! The Mad King of the Giants was enraged. His multiple eyes turned bloodshot from the scene he just witnessed. The army of giants that took a long time to create has been dusted within mere seconds. How can he hold his anger despite that? The Mad King named Ashura roared at Reinhardt before giving him pressure using his own aura. It was a terrifying aura that would have killed any creature if received with all focus, but unfortunately, he was facing the wrong opponent here. Reinhardt's attention was grabbed by the Mad King's roar. Ho, a worm has managed to crawl its way into the top. Nonetheless, no matter how one grows, it cannot change the fact that it came from the ground. A mongrel will always be a mongrel, they say. Are you certain in facing me? His words were full of ridicule and it successfully taunted the angered king. Don't look down on me. I will defeat you and feast on your flesh. Ashura screamed. His choice of words piqued Reinhardt's attention. Not bad, he said, spotting a light smile. Well done, stating that you won't lose to me. He spoke before a huge pillar of light dropped to the exact location of Ashura. The Mad King was pinned on the ground from the intense pressure that Reinhardt gave. Reinhardt scattered into light particles before forming again, this time in front of the pressured Ashura. He gave him a condescending smile before speaking. I shall give you my name. I am Reinhardt, your esteemed creator has given me the title of Divine One. Ashura, who was pinned to the ground, was lost for words. The man standing in front was an existence he cannot understand. What is this? I don't understand. This man, he is, what kind of emotion is this? Ashura was contemplating things, for he encountered an emotion he could not understand. He really despised this uncomfortable feeling and wanted an answer to everything. It's fear. You are currently afraid just by facing the strongest being not created by the Lord. The one who answered Ashura's hidden question was the leader of the primordial angels. The group he deemed clowns. Fear. I feel frightened. This me. Ashura was really displeased by that notion. He does not believe that there is a creature in this world that can bestow him the feeling of fear. Not even Veldanava was able to do that. No. I refuse to admit defeat here. I will conquer the world with my strength. Ashura still managed to shout that, however, to the spectators, he is already good as dead. Especially when a large golden bone hand was slowly dropping from the sky, momentarily parting it. Even Feldway and the angels shuddered from that hand despite not being the target of the attack. This shows just how much power was contained in those hands. Before Ashura could even sense it, the hand was already brought down, gouging everything on the ground. Ashura, the main target, was heavily damaged. Feldway and the others backed away to avoid getting hit. Somehow they have the feeling that Reinhardt won't care whether they are hit in the process or not. Shaking his head, Feldway gazed at the battlefield. Look well, my fellow angels. That is Reinhardt Nava, our lord and a true monster. He spoke as his comrades followed his gaze. Feldway, that abomination, is that all souls? Zelario uttered that question while staring at the huge skeleton formed from gold. The absurdity of the monster was beyond their comprehension. It appears to be souls, and they even maintained physical figures. It is truly a work of art. And based on the numbers, I would say that his soul count has reached at least millions, Feldway gave his conclusion. Yua, I really have no intention of fighting him. Dino spoke of his true thoughts, shivering from fear. All I can say is that, he is truly born in the wrong world. His mere presence is destroying everything, Zelario also added. Reinhardt was floating in the sky as he stared at the dust below. What's wrong? Don't tell me that was it, he said, retracting the pressure he gave to the Mad King. Dance beautifully for me, audacious king, Reinhardt announced, smiling lightly. Ashura blew the dust away as he rushed towards the golden skeleton. Haaaaaa. His screams can be heard everywhere as he stepped into the arm of the skeleton. Upon reaching it, he was greeted with thousands of soldiers armed with World War II weapons. They were all dead soldiers that were part of Reinhardt's legion, and with Reinhardt existing, they wouldn't fall. Asura threw punches everywhere, eradicating thousands and thousands of soldiers. Each of his attacks bypassed the law of physics, creating a shockwave that is not normally possible. Realizing that staying and battling against each soldier will surely waste his time, so he just bulldozed through them, intending to reach Reinhardt. Boom! A large explosion hit his face. He looked around and saw some unusual things. It appears to be vehicles but slow, however their attacks were worthy of acknowledgement. Tanks and aircrafts began hovering around Asura, hitting him with artillery. Curse this! Ha! Ashura shouted, placing force into his feet as he soared to the sky. And because the law of physics doesn't work well with his body, double or even triple jumping in the air was not a problem at all. Ashura was about to descend when he spotted a bright golden light accumulating under one of the 6 hands of the skeleton. His instinct rang and wanted him to move immediately, but unfortunately his reflex was too late. The golden light released a huge beam that blitzed Asura to outer space. The amount of power he possessed is crazy. Is this the so-called sealed state that Lord Veldanava mentioned? How are we going to handle his released one? How ridiculous! Dino scratched the back of his head while muttering. Despite being pissed by the enemy earlier, Dino is now starting to feel pity towards him. The treatment he is receiving is far from pleasing, in fact he is just being toyed around helplessly. I believe he probably doesn't realize that Yeten is still grasping at the little hope that he might exhaust Lord Reinhardt, Feldway said. Exhaust? How is he going to do that? It is basically impossible for Lord Reinhardt to be exhausted, right? Pico asked, tilting her head. It is thanks to his special constitution. No matter how long the Mad King fights or moves, energy just keeps piling up inside him. Energy is just a number for him because of that, Feldway explained before shaking his head bitterly. The dominance of Reinhardt has reached to the point where his subordinates would feel pity for the enemy. That is the cruelty of the situation. Did he perhaps not know that his constitution was inspired from Lord Reinhardt himself? Pico can now understand the predicament that Ashura is currently in. He is hanging on the hope that Reinhardt would exhaust himself, not knowing that Reinhardt has the same physical attributes as him, or perhaps even stronger. Understand now. This is not a fight. It is just a one-sided mocking. Perhaps this is the reason why Lord Veldanava didn't bother entering the battlefield. He judged that Lord Reinhardt would take care of it himself. Surprisingly, Dino spoke a long sentence. HMPH, don't act too big, Dino. I know that much. Pico was not happy by the way that Dino is speaking, so she snorted at him. Dino on the other hand just deadpanned. What the hell is with this woman? What a pawn, he thought. Dot, 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 dot. Ashura was blasted to outer space as he controlled his balance. While mid-floating though, he didn't spot the new light forming within the mouth of the skeleton. It was slowly getting bigger. Ashura could only react at the last second, pushing all of his strength to resist the beam of light. Gah! He shouted, somehow using the momentum of the impact to divert his body from the beam. Ashura stepped into the air as he moved faster than the speed of light, directly arriving in front of Reinhardt. Take this. The man in question is just smiling though. If you are afraid, you cannot defeat me. Reinhardt stood still and didn't dodge the strike that Ashura threw at him. Under the sight of many spectators, an impossibility occurred. Crack. The hand that Ashura used to attack Reinhardt began cracking slowly. You lack the love for the world, and thus I shall teach you. He gave time for Ashura to comprehend his words. I love everything, equally, no matter what it is. My love is destruction. I destroy everything in the universe. Until I find something I cannot destroy, until the day I satisfy myself, I await the Dies Irae. With a condescending look, Reinhardt stared at the falling Mad King. His body is slowly cracking and breaking. It was a sight to behold. The tyrant that spreaded fear for a day was easily played. Crack. Another loud sound of cracking alerted everyone. They looked around searching for the source and were horrified to see the monument that was placed within this area was cracking. Oh shit, Dino muttered, sensing despair. Dash. The fight in the next chapter is overly dramatic. I initially thought of ending the fight here, but if I just kill Ashura, then the 3 true ancestors of giants wouldn't be born. Look forward to it. 6 comments, 0 vote. Love is madness. Stonies. It appears that I have made this chapter overly dramatic. Sorry in advance. Dash. A tremor shook the battlefield, jolting everyone back to the immediate threat. The once proud monument dedicated to restraining the depths of Reinhardt's power now resembled a spider web of cracks, groaning under an unseen pressure. Feldway's mutter morphed into a panicked shout, everyone back. It's collapsing. Panic ripped through the remaining angels. They scrambled back, wings beating a frantic rhythm against the dust-choked air. Reinhardt, however, remained unfazed. His smile, however, seemed to hold a hint of amusement as he watched the monument crumble. Destruction begets destruction, he mused, a touch of philosophical detachment in his voice. The irony is not lost on me. Ashura, who just experienced the tip of Reinhardt's might, landed with a heavy thud amongst the debris of the monument. His entire body throbbed with pain, the cracks from Reinhardt's attack spreading like a malevolent disease. Yet, a flicker of defiance still burned in his remaining eye. You bastard, he rasped, the words laced with fury and a newfound terror. What have you done? Reinhardt tilted his head, a gesture that felt unsettlingly patronizing. Merely a side effect of my power. The monument, imbued with this world's magic, cannot withstand the sheer force of my divinity. Consider it a purification ritual. Purification? You call this destruction, purification? Ashura roared, his voice raw with pain and rage. Econimo, Reinhardt replied serenely. This world has been tainted by your filthy ways. It needs a cleansing fire to pave the way for something new, something beautiful. Ashura's rage boiled over. He lunged at Reinhardt, his remaining hand a blur of motion. But before he could even connect, a blinding light engulfed them both. The angels cried out, shielding their eyes with their wings. When the light faded, the battlefield had undergone another transformation. The once familiar landscape was now a swirling vortex of colors, chaotic and mesmerizing. Ashura stood suspended within the vortex, his broken body seemingly held together by an unseen force. Reinhardt, unharmed, floated opposite him, his golden aura pulsing faintly. Welcome, Reinhardt spoke, his voice echoing within the vortex, to Gladsheimer, my personal dimension. Ashura's lone eye widened in a mixture of fear and confusion. What is this place? He stammered. This, Reinhardt declared, spreading his arms wide, is where you will witness the true extent of my power. Here, you are completely at my mercy. A cruel smile played on Reinhardt's lips. The fight was far from over. It had only just begun, and the stage was set for a display of power that would leave even the most seasoned warriors trembling in fear. Just as Ashura opened his mouth to speak, a new sensation washed over him. Something immense, powerful, materialized behind Reinhardt. A brilliant spear, radiating an otherworldly glow, slowly took shape. Runes danced across its surface, pulsing with a crimson light. This was Longinusland's testament, the very embodiment of Reinhardt's power. The remaining angels gasped. This was the spear they'd only heard whispers about, the weapon that held the power to reshape destinies. Ashura stared, his eye widening in a mix of fear and awe. What is that? He stammered. Reinhardt chuckled, a chilling sound that echoed through the vortex. This, he declared, raising the spear high, is the instrument of your demise. Longinusland's testament, the spear that severs fate. An eerie silence descended upon the battlefield, broken only by the rasping breaths of the remaining giants. Everyone held their breath, waiting for what would happen next. A tense silence reigned over the battlefield after Reinhardt revealed Longinusland's testament. The remaining giants huddled together, trembling with fear. The celestial beings, Feldway and his angels, watched with wide eyes, their awe tinged with a chilling dread. Reinhardt, however, held a different emotion in his eyes: amusement. He lowered the spear slightly, a cruel smile playing on his lips. You are a disappointment, Ashura, he declared, his voice echoing in the swirling vortex of Gladsheimer. So much rage, so much destruction, yet so easily broken. Intending to see where a giant's desperation can reach, Reinhardt willingly handed 10,000 souls towards Ashura, who was stunned by the action. Conditions have been met. Elevating individual, Ashura, to a new level. The voice of the world rang as Ashura began experiencing demon lordification. The 10,000 souls were consumed by his body, igniting one of the most notable transformations within this world. He will now drop the shell of a mortal and slowly transcend towards the top. This madness of a choice that Reinhardt chose was equivalent to insanity. He literally birthed one of the most terrifying beings the universe could ever face. Ashura, his body reformed and pulsating with newfound power, roared in defiance. The 10,000 souls he had absorbed fueled a surge of energy that coursed through his veins. He felt stronger, faster, more potent than ever before. His body was reformed, but even with this power boost, he could sense the vast gulf between himself and the Divine One. You call this broken? Ashura bellowed, his voice resonating with the ferocity of a demon lord awakened. I will tear you apart, piece by agonizing piece. Reinhardt tilted his head, a gesture that seemed to mock Ashura's bravado. Perhaps, he conceded, but will it be satisfying? Will it offer me the spectacle I desire? He raised Longinusland's testament again, the spear humming with power. You see, Ashura, your path is one of destruction, but destruction alone is empty. It lacks love. Ashura scoffed. Love? What do you know of love? You speak of purification, yet you destroy everything in your path. Ah, but therein lies the beauty of my love, Reinhardt said, his voice taking on a philosophical tone. It is a love that encompasses all. Creation and destruction, beauty and ugliness, life and death. I love it all, for it is through this all-encompassing love that I can rebuild anew. That's not love. That's madness. Ashura roared, his newly awakened power manifesting in demonic armor that adorned his body. He lunged at Reinhardt, his fists crackling with chaotic energy. The Divine One did not move. The attack connected with a deafening boom, but Reinhardt remained unfazed. He simply smiled, a chilling expression of detached curiosity. Is this all you can offer? Where is the fury that once burned so brightly? Where is the despair that threatened to consume you? Ashura, frustrated and enraged, unleashed a flurry of attacks. He smashed his fist into the ground, sending shockwaves rippling through Gladsheimer. He unleashed a torrent of dark energy that scorched the swirling vortex. Yet, none of it seemed to faze Reinhardt, who continued to observe the display with an unsettling calmness. You are a child throwing tantrums, Reinhardt declared. Your rage is but a pale imitation of true power. True power comes not from destruction alone, but from the understanding that destruction is a necessary part of creation. Ashura roared again, a primal scream of defiance. He knew he was outmatched, but the thought of surrendering to this all-powerful being was unbearable. He pushed his newfound demonic power to its limit, unleashing an attack that ripped through the very fabric of Gladsheimer. The vortex trembled violently, threatening to collapse. Even the celestial beings watching from afar felt a surge of fear as they witnessed the raw power unleashed. The battlefield fell silent once more. The remaining giants watched with bated breath, unsure of what awaited them. The giants exchanged worried glances, a sense of unease gnawing at them. The fate of Ashura hung in the balance, and with it, the fate of their race. Ashura, who just awakened as a demon lord, roared with renewed fury. Gone was the broken shell, replaced by a hulking, demonic figure radiating an aura of raw, chaotic energy. Yet, even in his empowered state, a tremor of fear ran through him as he gazed upon Reinhardt. The Divine One, perched atop of his throne, held aloft Longinusland's testament. The spear, radiating an otherworldly glow, pulsed with a terrifying power. Ashura knew, with a horrifying certainty, that a single touch from that weapon meant oblivion. Is this all you can offer? Reinhardt's voice echoed within the swirling vortex of Gladsheimer. Where is the fury that once burned so brightly, Ashura? Where is the despair that threatened to consume you? Ashura didn't respond with words. He lunged, not with brute force, but with a speed that defied even the warped physics of Gladsheimer. He contorted his body, ignoring its limitations, becoming a blur of motion aimed at disarming Reinhardt. But the Divine One seemed to anticipate the attack. He didn't move, yet the spear tip blurred, deflecting Ashura's fist with a deafening clang. The shockwave rippled outwards, distorting the vortex itself. Ashura, fueled by rage and desperation, unleashed a barrage of attacks. He punched with fists wreathed in dark energy, kicked with legs that could shatter mountains, even summoned meteors of pure malice from the swirling chaos. Each attack was faster, stronger, more destructive than the last. Yet, each attack met the same fate. Longinusland's testament, a weapon designed to pierce the very fabric of reality, effortlessly deflected everything Ashura threw at it. The frustration gnawed at the newly awakened demon lord. His primal rage, the very fuel of his power, began to falter under the weight of his impotence. Reinhardt, however, remained impassive. His voice, devoid of emotion, cut through the chaos like a knife. Is this your love, Ashura? A love that seeks only to destroy? A love that consumes all in its path? His words, laced with a twisted philosophy, were like a mental whip. They lashed at the foundations of Ashura's being, the very beliefs that had driven him all this time. Love is destruction. Was this all his rage, his suffering, had amounted to? A twisted reflection of the supposed love that Reinhardt espoused. Doubt, a cold serpent, coiled around Ashura's heart. His attacks faltered, his movements became sluggish. The once ferocious roar in his throat turned into a choked gasp. Reinhardt, sensing the shift, took a step forward. The vortex shimmered as he moved, the very fabric of this dimension bending to his will. Perhaps, he continued, his voice low and dangerous, it is time for you to understand what true love means. He raised Longinusland's testament, its tip aimed directly at Ashura's heart. The white light at its tip pulsed faster, growing in intensity with each passing moment. Fear, raw and primal, surged through Ashura. This was it. This was the end. But even in the face of annihilation, a flicker of defiance remained in Ashura's single, burning eye. He wouldn't go down without a fight. He wouldn't let this twisted being win. With a desperate roar that echoed through the vortex, Ashura did the unthinkable. He reached deep within himself, drawing upon the very essence of his being. A blinding light erupted from his body, pushing back against the oppressive aura of Gladsheimer. The vortex itself began to tremble violently as Ashura unleashed a power he never knew he possessed. A blinding light emanated from Ashura's core, pushing back against the oppressive aura of Gladsheimer. The vortex writhed in protest, distorted by the sheer power radiating from the newly awakened demon lord. This wasn't just rage or despair anymore. It was a primal scream, a desperate plea for existence itself. You will not define destruction. Ashura roared, his voice a distorted echo within the churning vortex. His demonic form pulsed with an unholy light, the very fabric of his being straining under the exertion. He channeled everything he had, the fury that fueled within his whole being, the urge to conquer the world, the pain and suffering that birthed his monstrous rage. It all coalesced into a single, desperate attack. With a movement that defied time itself, Ashura blurred into a storm of fists and claws. He rained down a barrage of blows so fast, so violent, that they seemed to tear at the very fabric of reality. The air crackled with chaotic energy, the ground beneath Reinhardt's throne crumbling to dust. But the Divine One remained unfazed. His golden aura pulsed in response, deflecting each blow effortlessly. Longinusland's testament, a shimmering beacon of death, hummed with a terrifying power. A valiant effort, Reinhardt conceded, his voice calm amidst the chaos. But ultimately futile. Your love, Ashura, is a twisted reflection, a mockery of the true power that flows through me. As the last of Ashura's attack dissipated, Reinhardt raised the spear high. The white light at its tip flared, blindingly bright. This was it. This was the end. Ashura knew it, felt it in his very core. He had poured everything he had into that last attack, and it wasn't enough. A desperate scream ripped from his throat. No, I won't let you win. He slammed his fists together, the energy radiating from his body reaching a fever pitch. In a final act of defiance, Ashura unleashed a wave of pure, chaotic energy, a self-destructive explosion aimed at engulfing both him and Reinhardt. The vortex screamed in agony as the energy surged through it. For a split second, a blinding light filled the void. Then, a deafening silence descended. The existence called Ashura was no more. When the light faded, the vortex shimmered precariously. In place of the raging Ashura, 3 figures stood suspended. One, tall and imposing with flowing blue hair, radiated an aura of raw power. The second, cloaked in an emerald green mist, sported an evil grin. The third, shrouded in an ominous purple light, exuded an air of quiet despair. Reinhardt, unharmed, lowered Longinusland's testament. A faint smile played on his lips. As expected, he murmured, his voice echoing in the stunned silence. The spear of destiny has fulfilled its purpose. The fractured soul of Ashura, separated. The three figures, bound by an invisible tether, looked at each other with confusion and dawning horror. Who are you? The blue-haired figure boomed, his voice filled with confusion. What have you done? The green-haired one hissed, his eyes flickering with the urge to destroy. The purple-haired figure simply stared, his expression a mask of silent despair. Reinhardt chuckled, a chilling sound that reverberated through the fractured vortex. You are the fragments of Ashura, he declared. You are his power, his evil, and his pride. And I am the one who has brought you to light. The three figures, bewildered and enraged, roared in unison before falling down unconscious from exhaustion. Reinhardt has won the battle, so it is for him to write the history, thus he declared. The being named Ashura will now be forgotten till the end of time. No one shall ever spoke of his name again, he said before taking a seat back into his throne. How do you like the philosophical shits I placed here? Asthoglho creator's thoughts. 6 comments 0 vote. Twilight Valentine. Oh, Stonies. Dash. The war has ended, in an overwhelming way that is. There is no doubt that Reinhardt Nava has controlled the battlefield from the beginning to end. Because of his action, the creature named Ashura will never be of talk again. Magnificent work, Lord Reinhardt. Feldway appeared along with his comrades as they kneeled in front of him. Unfortunately for them, Reinhardt is currently occupied with something. He is basking in the memories of those who perished under his actions. Deity of Kate. It's a sorcery created by Karl Ernst Kraft with the intention to spiritually merge an honorb with their wielder, henceforth granting them superhuman capabilities. Most forms of sorceries use life force as their fuel, and it was rather common that most sorcerers back in the ancient era would use the blood or even the soul of a living thing, particularly human soul, to power up their craft. The phenomenon of an honorb choosing their wielder and seeking souls as sustenance was not uncommon ever since ancient times. These cases, however, always end up with said wielders being destroyed by their attraction to their own relic. In other words, there are next to no benefits for someone to wield a relic. Ewig Kate seeks to reform that, as its creation allows a wielder to form a symbiotic relationship with their relic. By taking a vast amount of souls, the wielder also grows stronger in return. The wielder also gains life force equivalent to the amount of lives they devoured, which vastly augments their physical capabilities while making it harder for them to die, turning them into what's called as an apostle. The only downside to this sorcery is that normal creatures could not contain numerous souls within their body, as each vassal has a limit. Reinhardt, though, was born without that limitation. He can accept as many souls as he wants as long as his consciousness can handle it. Which leads to another downside, and it is incorporating memories and experience. While consuming a soul, the user will go through each and every memory of the person they have killed. Those with weak wills cannot make it through this process, and some even died during it. Reinhardt is an exception again. He has a huge ego capable of accepting any memories thrown at him. One of the evidence of this is the millions of souls roaming in his castle. He is now experiencing the few months that the true giants have lived. Nothing too great, only giants consumed by their instinct to destroy things, a rather boring spectacle for Reinhardt. He finished it in an instant and relished the slight growth of his body. Feldway, bring their bodies to me, Reinhardt ordered without even looking at the primordial angel. Feldway has no qualms about it, so he just fetched the bodies of the three and presented them to Reinhardt. That giant has given me amusement. In exchange for that, I shall bestow these fragments of his names. In hopes that they may never forget about the humiliating defeat they suffered here, Reinhardt took a second glance at the battlefield before giving another order. Clean the rest up. Leave only 2 giants, he said as the angels immediately took action. With the army they brought, the genocide began. Very well, this blue-haired one shall be hailed as the oldest, and thus he will be called as Dagruel. The green bastard will be Fen, also throw him in prison or something, he can't be rehabilitated. The last one is Glassard, the most well-mannered among them. Reinhardt bestowed names to the 3 while instructing Feldway. It didn't take long for the army of angels to dispatch the remaining 20,000 giants. There were only 2 left that were spared by them according to Reinhardt's instructions. Coincidentally, the 2 were twin giants, the girl was the older one. Listen here, you are free to despise me throughout your whole life and I could care less. Just keep in mind that both of you are now known as the true ancestors of the giant race along with those 2. The girl will be named Kasara while the boy Basara. Flourish your race well. I might change my mind and forgive you in the future. Reinhardt was harsh with his words, but no one interrupted him. Even the twins were just shaking on the ground as if they didn't feel the change in their existence from being named. That is natural, for they are within Reinhardt's vicinity. His aura is keeping them in check. forcing them to feel intense fear. While everyone was busy, a blinding light engulfed the battlefield. When the light faded, a figure materialized beside Reinhardt. A figure of pure light, radiating an aura of power that is equivalent even to the Divine One himself. It was Veldanava, the creator god, the one whose hand guided the creation of this world. Throughout the war, Veldanava had remained an enigmatic presence, his influence felt but never truly seen. Yet, now he stood before his son, his form shimmering with an otherworldly brilliance. Reinhardt, well done, my son. He surely would have taken over the world had you not intervened, Veldanava shamelessly complimented his son. It was a light work, father. He posed no threat, and besides I am certain that you placed some kind of restriction on that guy in case he really went insane. Reinhardt didn't accept the compliment as he believes that Veldanava would have taken care of it if he didn't arrive. He is thankful to his father though as he realized that Veldanava didn't descend just so that he could entertain himself. I really appreciate your understanding here, father. How about sharing a meal with me in the labyrinth? He invited Veldanava, who just smiled wryly. Forgive my rudeness, Lord Reinhardt, however I believe that letting Lord Veldanava clean the aftermath would be of most importance. Letting this insane energy roam around will permanently damage the earth. Feldway stepped in and reminded Veldanava of his job. Reinhardt considered that and concluded that it was logical. Then, I will bother you next time, father. I apologize for the inconvenience, Reinhardt said, stepping away from there. Veldanava was left stunned by what happened, but nonetheless, he can't escape responsibility. He created Ashura after all. Veldanava remembered something as he called out to Reinhardt. I already finished creating the replacement for the monument. I handed it to Ramirez so you may ask her for it, he said, smiling lightly. I appreciate it, Reinhardt responded. He was about to walk away when he remembered one agenda that he created amidst the fight against Ashura. Reinhardt's gaze turned to a certain place where a peeping Tom was located. The person in question was the divine ancestor, Twilight Valentine. A being created by Veldanava in hopes to alleviate his boredom. Twilight wished to help their creator, so they started researching things. They are currently stuck in their research because they could not find any inspiration within the chaotic world. For the first time since their creation though, a great inspiration finally befell in their hands in the figure of a man in gold. Never had they witnessed such a spectacle, and their motivation suddenly soared up. They were too immersed in their enlightenment that they failed to sense the imminent danger they were in. A lone predatory eye has fallen into their exact location. Despite being on the different side of the continent, the intense fear the gaze brought was still enough for them to start screaming and running away. This is the first time they have ever tasted the sensation of fear, and perhaps might be one of the things they needed to create the species that their lord wanted. Who gave you permission to look upon me, rabid dog? A voice startled them to their core, but they quickly recognized who it belonged to. The very being they were just observing earlier has now taken a move against them. WWE apologize. They tried to reason with it, but with no hopes of getting away. The pressure that they felt tightened to the point where moving became a difficult task. You knew of the atrocity you made yet never came here to properly show yourselves. Are you mocking my senses? The voice was truly angered, that they understood. They wanted to retort that their mind was occupied, resulting in not being able to reach a proper conclusion, but it appears that the creator's heir was adamant in their death. Just when they were about to explode from the pressure, it strangely vanished. HHUH. They were confused. Weren't they about to perish? What changed his mind to not continue it? The answer revealed itself when the voice talked again, but this time not pointed at them. Quote. Very well, if that is what you wish for, father. I will extend my mercy for them. Hearing that made them really relieved. They are grateful for the creator who gave them another chance. And now they are more motivated to fulfill their role in searching for the right race. Thus the war finally concluded. There were minimal casualties on the angels' side while the true giants were eradicated from the map. Only 5 of them were left while one was sealed by Veldanava. After that battle, Reinhardt returned to the labyrinth where he was welcomed by the sulking Ramirez. She was complaining that he didn't bring any souvenirs for her, but he shut her up when he mentioned that he diverted his father's attention when he wanted to pick Ramirez to help clean up. She was honestly relieved by that. She doesn't wish to spend weeks cleaning again. It has been quiet since then. There were no signs of trouble in the outside world, not like Reinhardt went out, but 6 decades have passed since that war. Reinhardt is currently in his room playing chess against Ramirez, who was rambling for the nth time this day. They have already battled for thousands of times during the 6 decades of boring times, yet she never managed to win even once against him. Reinhardt also kept lowering his level to make Ramirez think that she was getting close to beating him, but sadly she was out of her mind. Can't you properly arrange the pieces? It is hard to look at them when they are not properly placed. Oops. Ramirez complained about that one, sensing her defeats as she sabotaged the game by accidentally hitting the pieces which threw them away. Still as unsightly as ever. Don't you think that you should be changing your ways soon? Reinhardt gave her a stinky eye which embarrassed the spirit. She glared at him and turned her attention to the cookies laid on the side. Honestly, she doesn't even care about the game anymore. She is more interested about the cookies that Reinhardt baked. It was a delicacy she had never tasted before. She reached out for one but was slapped in the process. Hey, what's the big deal? You won't give me one? She asked, hissing at him. Don't be unreasonable. Can't you see that only one is left in there? From the 10 cookies I made for myself, you ate 9 of it. What big deal are you talking about? He sounded really on edge about it. Ramirez on the other hand just looked away while whistling. Well, she can't say she didn't expect this reaction. She just can't help it. Okay. It was far too tasty to be left cold on the table. Isn't it much better to eat the thing when it's hot and fresh? It appears that we have finished the game at the proper time. I consider this another win of mine, Reinhardt declared. Ramirez raised her eyebrow. This one doesn't count. There was no proper winner this time. Also, don't think you can be arrogant just because you are slightly ahead of wins. I will surely overtake you soon. She shouted. Slightly. Have you lost your mind, woman? Where does the slightly come from? 8,331 challenges yet you never won once. Be serious sometimes. With each of Reinhardt's words came some invisible arrow piercing Ramirez's body. She was damaged psychologically. Anyway, you should go and see that guest. He has been waiting for a whole 6 years at the entrance now, Reinhardt said, dismissing Ramirez who groaned in the process. Don't act like it was my fault. You were the one who disliked it, right? I was just being mindful of you. Ramirez pointed at Reinhardt, defending herself from the unreasonable guy. I don't care anymore. You may entertain him. He just shooed her away, though not caring about how she feels about the situation. HMPH, fine. Ramirez finally left to receive one of the creatures of Beldanava that helped prosper the world. The being helped in creating the species called High Human and vampires. With Jahil and Pippin being the first High Humans, while Gunther and Valentine is the progenitor of vampires. Indeed, it was none other than Twilight Valentine. They came here in hopes that the Queen of Spirits would lend her help in their research. They really need her support with this one because it involves creating more species. Unfortunately though, they have been ignored for the whole 6 years now. They can't help but feel that the situation is lost. They were also doubtful whether this would be successful because the one they offended decades ago was rumored to be staying in this labyrinth. They just hope that time has lessened the hostility that the Divine One has for them. This is just another day for them, but to their surprise, the entrance to the labyrinth was opened. This stunned them, but thinking that the Queen of Spirits is finally willing to hear them out is worth celebrating. A spirit emerged from the labyrinth as it got closer to Twilight. The Queen of Spirits, Lady Ramirez, is waiting inside. Please follow me, it said before starting to guide them. They observed the spirit in excitement because this is exactly what they came here for. Although this spirit is not on par with their expectations, there are probably a lot stronger inside. Twilight Valentine was led inside the labyrinth, though in the middle of that journey, the spirit suddenly vanished and the room was sealed. They panicked, wondering what they were planning, but the voice relieved them of their wariness. Before you can get to meet our esteemed queen, we prepared some riddles that you need to answer. The queen only allowed the wisest among creatures to have an audience with her. The spirit could not be seen, but its voice filled the room. May I ask what a riddle is? Twilight said. Tricky questions. One has to think outside the box to solve them, the spirit answered with that. I understand. Please proceed. Twilight accepted it, amazed by their wits to create such a word. First question will be handed in shortly. Hearing that, they prepared themselves. And just after 5 seconds, words made of spirit magic floated in front of them. The words vanished immediately though, but it was enough for Twilight. What can you hold in your right hand, but never in your left hand? Using the wisdom he has, Twilight accelerated his thoughts and started thinking deeply. What could it be? I can hold magicals in my right hand but also in my left. Is it a special kind of magic? Perhaps a bloodline ability. Unfortunate for him, his mind wandered too far and he reached the unknown truth. This is truly the first challenge Twilight Valentine received since time immemorial. 7 comments 0 vote. Wise Queen of Spirits. Stonies. Twilight Valentine, the divine ancestor, felt a tingle of excitement course through their being. A riddle. This was a novelty. After millennia of research, finally, a challenge that wasn't simply observing the chaotic world. Their very essence hummed with a newfound purpose. The question hung in the air, pulsating with spirit magic. What can you hold in your right hand, but never in your left hand? Twilight's mind, a vast repository of knowledge, whirred into action. Magicals wouldn't work. Bloodline abilities wouldn't work either. They considered the concept of unique skills possessed by specific individuals, but even those weren't exclusive to one hand. Frustration bubbled within them. Was this a test of strength? Perhaps a specific magical item that bonded with a dominant hand? Days bled into weeks. Twilight, confined within the ever-shifting labyrinth, obsessed over the riddle. They delved into ancient texts, analyzed obscure rituals, and even attempted to dissect historical accounts of weapon usage and combat techniques, always searching for an answer that eluded them. One particularly agonizing day, their frustration reached a peak. Is this some kind of cruel joke? They roared, their voice echoing through the labyrinthine halls. Suddenly, a soft chuckle materialized in the room. Not at all, divine ancestor, a voice, gentle as a summer breeze, responded. It was the voice of the labyrinth spirit. The question is meant to test not just your knowledge, but your perspective. Twilight narrowed their eyes. Perception. How does a simple question about hands require perception? Simple answers often lie in the most obvious places, the voice replied. Look at your hands. Hesitantly, Twilight raised their hands, examining them with a renewed focus. They were identical in appearance, each with 5 equally nimble fingers. A flicker of understanding sparked in their mind. Is it my left hand? They ventured, their voice filled with a hint of self-deprecation. The laughter echoed again, a touch warmer this time. Absolutely. You see, your right hand can hold your left hand, but your left hand cannot hold itself. Relief washed over them. It was so simple, so obvious once they shifted their perspective. The solution wasn't magic or strength, but a fundamental limitation of the human form. The spirit spoke again. You have passed the first test, divine ancestor. There are 2 more to go. Are you ready? An exhilarating warmth spread through Twilight. This was challenging, yes, but it was also exhilarating. They had a feeling these weren't just about strength or arcane lore. Bring them on, they declared, their voice brimming with newfound confidence. The room shimmered, and a new riddle materialized in the air. This time, the challenge wasn't a simple question, but a cryptic statement. I have cities, but no houses. I have mountains, but no trees. I have water, but no fish. I have roads, but no carriage. Twilight stared at the words, a playful grin spreading across their face. They had a feeling this wasn't going to be as difficult as the first riddle. The answer, they sensed, resided in a different kind of perception, a playful observation of the world around them. The stage was set for a fascinating duel of minds, a test of both knowledge and perception. Twilight Valentine, the divine ancestor, was finally getting their chance to use their wisdom to its fullest. He began thinking about the riddle. He already learned his lesson from the previous riddle that took weeks to complete. He won't make the same mistake again. Perhaps the answer is simple and can be found with just simple thinking. The clues are too vague. I cannot grasp the proper answer. Hesitantly, Twilight refocused on the words, each one sharp against the shifting walls. I have cities, but no houses. I have mountains, but no trees. I has water, but no fish. I have roads, but no carriages. A spark of realization ignited within them. The answer wasn't some fantastical world, but a representation, a way of depicting the world without its clutter. Is it a map? They exclaimed, their voice tinged with a hint of self-doubt. It felt too simple, too basic for a challenge presented by the spirit. The room shimmered, and a warm light bathed them in a gentle glow. Indeed, divine ancestor, the spirit boomed, the satisfaction evident in its voice. Relief washed over Twilight. They had awoken from their self-inflicted labyrinth of overthinking. Sometimes, the answer truly lay in the most obvious place, a matter of perspective. The map represents the world, the spirit continued, stripped of its details, but capturing its essence. It guides, it informs, it allows us to navigate the complexities of the world. Twilight nodded, a newfound respect for the power of simplicity blooming within them. They had not only passed the test, but gained a valuable lesson in the importance of clear thinking and understanding the core of a problem. The air crackled with anticipation. Now, for the final test, the spirit announced. Its voice, though gentle, held a hint of challenge. This one is a bit of a legend. The Queen mentioned that even some of the creatures you created, there are those with little lifespan. This should be suitable for you if you indeed did your job of observing their growth, the spirit conveyed the thoughts of her queen. Please present me with the challenge. I won't disappoint the Queen of Spirits, they said, excited for the next one. This is a first in their life that they are being taught. They are the peak of mind after all, creator of races. Twilight waited in anticipation as the same effect happened like before. The sealed room was filled with light as the words finally appeared before his eyes. Just like the others, this riddle was not something they could decipher within one glance, so they focused their eyes on the floating words. What goes on 4 feet in the morning, 2 feet in midday, and 3 feet in the evening? The inscription shimmered before twilight, each word etched with an otherworldly luminescence. A prickle of unease ran down their vast consciousness. This riddle felt different. Unlike the previous ones that relied on logic or perspective, this one held a strange familiarity, a faint echo from a long-forgotten memory. Focusing intently, Twilight dissected the riddle. What goes on 4 feet in the morning, 2 feet in midday, and 3 feet in evening? Their mind raced, sifting through his abundance of knowledge. Was it some mythical creature with a metamorphosis tied to the sun? An arcane ritual involving specific stances? Hours bled into days, and the riddle continued to taunt them. Frustration gnawed at Twilight. They delved deeper, unearthing forgotten scrolls and arcane texts in their mind, searching for a hidden meaning. Yet, the answer remained elusive. Then, a memory flickered into existence, a faint echo from a distant past. It was a vision, hazy and fragmented, of delicate, luminescent beings flitting through a twilight forest. They were small, fragile creatures, their bodies shimmering with an ethereal light. Twilight, in order to please his creator, had created them, beings of pure essence, meant to exist for a single, brilliant day. A jolt of realization struck them. The creatures. The answer to the riddle lay not in the grand schemes of the universe, but in their own, cherished creation. A bittersweet pang of fondness washed over them, a forgotten affection for the fleeting beauty they had brought into existence. The answer, Twilight boomed, their voice echoing through the labyrinth, is a human, right? The room shimmered, the light intensifying as the spirit's voice resonated. Indeed, divine ancestor. A brilliant deduction. A human, crawling on all fours in their infancy, walks upright in their prime, and relies on a cane in their twilight years. Relief and a flicker of pride washed over Twilight. They had not only solved the riddle but also rediscovered a cherished memory, a reminder of the wonders they had created. The spirit's voice continued, filled with respect. You have passed all 3 tests, divine ancestor. Your wisdom and perception are indeed formidable. The Queen will be pleased. Now, prepare yourself. The true challenge awaits. The room dissolved around Twilight, the labyrinth walls melting away to reveal a blinding light. They braced themselves, anticipation thrumming through their being. The lessons learned in this strange confinement had awakened a dormant spark within them. They were ready to face the wise Queen of Spirits who opened their minds widely. Never had they felt such loss before. They believed themselves as the most intelligent beings in the world besides Veldanov, yet here they are spending weeks on mere 3 riddles. The experience is welcomed by them. The moment they entered the designated room though, what greeted them made them understand the term disbelief. What are you looking at? Hurry up and tell me your request. You made me wait for weeks. Thanks to you, I couldn't bother Reinhardt. There, the esteemed Queen of Spirits was munching into some food that they didn't recognize, ignoring all kinds of manners or so. It was out of their expectations that the sagacious person who created those riddles would be a messed up looking woman. What is that gaze? Believe me or not, I will really kick you out right now. I wasted so much time here when I could have used it to play instead. Ramirez was unreasonable with her words, but sadly she has no obligation to entertain Twilight. She is already irked that someone dares to disturb her playtime, but now they are also staring strangely at her. She couldn't help but be pissed. Twilight immediately controlled themselves as they apologized to the Queen of Spirits. I hope it is in your heart to forgive us. We are sorry for taking your time, Lady Ramirez. Usually, Twilight would not respect anyone in the world except Veldanova and Reinhardt, but since Ramirez proved her worth, he is obliged to do so. I accept your apology. Now you better hurry up or else Reinhardt will get angry. You know how scary he is, right? I heard your story from him. It was hilarious. Ramirez chuckled, pointing at Twilight, who just closed his eyes in humiliation. Once again, I apologize. I came here to ask for your support in fetching some spirits that will help me with my research. Lord Veldanova was not satisfied with the 2 species I created, hence I wish to create more. Twilight initially wanted to mention the time he spent waiting, but upon realizing that it is just stupid, he held his intrusive thoughts back. He can't afford losing this chance. Oh, hi, humans and vampires was it? I heard about them from Reinhardt. He mentioned how they are faulty and wouldn't suit his father's preference. Judging from how he was speaking, it seems like he already knows what kind of creatures Veldanova would like. Ramirez pondered while speaking of her thoughts. Exclamation mark, question mark. They were stunned to hear that. Not only Reinhardt knows of their existence, he even knows Lord Veldanova that well. Did Lord Reinhardt speak of the race that Lord Veldanova wanted? If so, may I ask what it is? They asked, a little desperate since it has been long, yet they still have not managed to satisfy their lord. Nope. Didn't mention it. I was also curious about it, so I asked, however, he never mentioned it once. Well, that guy is pretty stubborn. Oh, Spirit's right. I can fetch some for you. Ramirez was pretty nonchalant about the situation. I would like to add that they must be some fallen fragments of the original Great Spirits. I ask of you. Twilight lowered their heads lightly. Well, it doesn't matter. Let's hasten this up so I can return now. The process was quick. With Ramirez's authority as the Queen of Spirit, even greater spirits could not resist her. Ramirez ordered the spirits to follow Twilight and not to ask questions. Her current attitude is different from the past where she cares for everyone. She is like this because of the influence of Reinhardt, who didn't even try to butter up his attitude. Ramirez quickly kicked Twilight out of her labyrinth after he finished his goal. Unknown to the Queen of Spirits, her history will be quite different from the original. The fallen Queen of Spirit will be held in a good light, because of a simple misunderstanding that she didn't consider a big deal. Ramirez made her way back into Reinhardt's crib. Although she admits that she felt happy watching Twilight's misery, she won't say it out loud. He still wasted a few of her weeks after all, he can't change that fact. Without even bothering to knock, Ramirez intruded the room. Reinhardt, we are finally done, she shouted, disturbing the man who was relaxing in his throne. You've already returned. Ramirez can't explain how, but she feels like Reinhardt is really exhausted while saying that. As if he was treating her as a huge problem. Tisk, I hate that you sounded so uncomfortable there. Still, I finally finished my job there, he was so troublesome. Ramirez began complaining, ignoring the deadpan that Reinhardt is giving her. So, did you help him or what? He asked while conjuring a whine from nothingness. Ramirez was excited to speak of her story that she didn't notice the frustration from Reinhardt's face. After finishing the tale, she stared at Reinhardt, waiting for him to say how magnanimous she was. In conclusion, you played a game of riddles after which you got bored for he took so long to answer and then just immediately handed the spirits. I was a fool expecting from you, he said, swirling the wine from the glass. What does that even mean? I did a great thing, right? Other races will now emerge while the world prosper from them. The way Ramirez spoke struck Reinhardt. He then remembers what kind of being she was. The epitome of all spirits, caring to others impartially. In the end, it was his mistake after all. For thinking that Ramirez was the same kind of person as he, perhaps this is the result of being with her for too long. He began conjuring his opinion about her and took it for granted. She was never an evil person in the first place, neither will she become in the future. Her becoming a demon lord was just a result of her saving the world, there was no malice included. Ramirez, I have changed my mind about you. You are a kind person after all. Your generous heart will never bend to any evil. You may continue holding your head high for that reason. Ramirez was overwhelmed by what she just heard. It was the first time that Reinhardt called her by her real name and not by woman. And the compliments he was giving was not something one can hear even for millennials. Maybe if they were a worthy enemy then he might make an exception, but genuine compliments like this? Almost impossible. That is also why Ramirez cannot help but feel dread from this situation. It was already unusual for Reinhardt to call her by her name, but he also complimented her. Is the world gonna end next? Her feelings were spot on. Because the one friend that Ramirez created in her stay has now decided to vanish from her sight. Reinhardt. 10 comments 0 vote. True dragon. Of course, unlike what everyone thought, Reinhardt didn't really leave Ramirez. It just happened that he was called by his father this time, leaving no chance to explain. Besides, even if he was given, he wouldn't bother to explain it. With Reinhardt's character, there is no possibility that he would tire himself just to explain something. Misunderstanding might happen, but he has no interest in the consequences, all that matters is his opinion about himself. Reinhardt appeared at the place designated by his father, and it didn't take long for them to arrive too. Veldanava was with his usual troops, the 7 primordial angels. Greetings, father. It appears that you have been enjoying these previous years. Reinhardt greeted his father the creator as he noticed the slight change from his face. You can tell. As expected. It is just, the dreams that I built before are slowly becoming a reality. New species were being created and I absolutely adore them. Their growth provided me with happiness, Veldanava explained while smiling lightly. I see, it is great that the divine ancestor has been doing his job well. You must be really grateful for his results, that should be enough to spare him for a few centuries. Reinhardt was delighted to hear the joy in his father's voice. Ha ha ha, if one does not know you then they take your words as jokes, Veldanava chuckled. Can I ask how you feel about being with Ramirez now? Did it change your perspective, even just for a bit? Reinhardt stopped hearing that. He contemplated for a second before answering truthfully. Not at all, father. She might be a marvelous influencer, however her words are little of use to me. A mere spirit cannot change my ways. Veldanava fell silent. He could not forcefully change the path of Reinhardt, so he just wished that Ramirez could somehow help him. Unfortunately, it appears that the boy became more aware of his task because of the realization he felt being with Ramirez's side. Veldanava can't say that he didn't try. Do you really wish to destroy my whole life of work? He asked, staring deeply into Reinhardt's eyes. The golden eyes did not even flinch from the question, it merely returned the same gaze before answering. I might be your son, father. But I can also be called your greatest adversary. I love everything you created and thus I must undoubtedly destroy it. I see, I won't change your mind. I am also certain that there will be a person that can divert you from your path. Veldanava smiled as he rubbed the head of Reinhardt. Their conversation was quite intense, but no hatred was shown between the two. In fact, their respect for each other rose to another level. Ridiculous. However, I won't dismiss those words of yours, father. Show me the potential of your creations, they are free to stop me from my conquest. Reinhardt smiled as he accepted Veldanava's words. By the way, why have you called me here? Is there something important that requires my presence? Reinhardt finally went to the point. Nah, I just wanted to invite you to witness the birth of another of my kind. In other words, your future uncle. Are you interested? Veldanava asked, smiling slyly at Reinhardt, who closed his eyes. You should have already known what my answer will be, father. Is there a need to ask? He responded, opening his eyes and taking a glance at the horizon. He is now ready to watch the birth of the storm dragon, Veldora. It is one of the characters that gained the fans' recognition after all. Cringe shit alert. Reinhardt materialized in a desolate expanse, a stark contrast to the vibrant world he'd glimpsed before. Jagged, obsidian mountains clawed at a sky perpetually choked with swirling storm clouds. Lightning, a perpetual ballet of silver fury, danced across the heavens, illuminating a vast, churning ocean below. Here, the raw power of nature thrummed in the very air. Veldanava stood upon a colossal, obsidian platform that seemed to defy gravity, his 7 primordial angels flanking him like an honor guard. Each angel, a radiant being of pure energy, pulsed with an otherworldly power that made normal creatures within the vicinity gasps in awe. Yet, despite their AWE-inspiring presence, it was the figure at the platform's center that truly commanded attention. A colossal sphere of pure, crackling energy pulsed with an erratic rhythm. Within its swirling depths, a nascent consciousness stirred, a storm yet to be unleashed. This was the embryonic form of Veldora, the storm dragon, a being of immense power and tempestuous spirit. The platform trembled as the energy sphere intensified its erratic pulsing. Veldanava raised a hand, his voice booming across the desolate landscape. Witness this well, son, the birth of a new true dragon. The storm above mirrored the turmoil within the sphere. Lightning intensified, arcing with a ferocity that seemed to tear at the very earth they were standing on. The churning ocean rose in a frenzy, waves crashing against the obsidian platform with a deafening roar. Reinhardt, his golden gaze unwavering, felt a tremor of anticipation course through him. This wasn't mere birth, it was a tempestuous birth, a being of immense power clawing its way into existence. A primal understanding bloomed within him. Veldora wouldn't be a passive dragon that would be pressured by his sisters. This dragon, this storm-given form, would be a force of nature, a wild card in the grand scheme of things. A sudden, ear-splitting shriek echoed across the wasteland. The energy sphere pulsed one last time, a blinding flash erupting outwards. When the light subsided, a magnificent creature stood on the platform, its scales shimmering a deep, electric blue. The storm dragon had arrived. The storm dragon was a sight to behold. Towering over even the primordial angels, its draconic form pulsed with raw power. Electricity danced across its scales, crackling with an energy that mirrored the storm above. Its eyes, twin maelstroms of churning blue, seemed to contain the fury of 1,000 tempests. The young dragon flexed its powerful claws, a tremor shaking the platform. A primal roar erupted from its throat, a sound that echoed with raw, untamed power. The storm above responded, the lightning dancing in a chaotic ballet that mirrored THR dragon's burgeoning emotions. Veldanava chuckled, a sound that boomed across the desolate landscape like thunder. Behold, son, witness the potential of true dragons. Can you still see the future that lies within this boy? Reinhardt met his father's gaze, a flicker of something akin to respect dancing in his golden eyes. That is a respectable challenge, he admitted, a hint of amusement in his voice. Perhaps your kind do hold some value, father. Veldora, sensing the exchange, turned its head towards Reinhardt, the storm in its eyes momentarily focusing on the golden-haired figure. Veldanava decided that it would end to no good if this continued, so he took over. Veldanava's booming laughter echoed once more, a sound that seemed to momentarily calm the raging storm above. A magnificent existence, indeed. A spirit that rivals the tempest itself, he stated, his voice brimming with relief. He then turned his gaze towards the magnificent dragon, his eyes glowing with a soft, brotherly light. With a dramatic flourish, Veldanava raised his hand, a vast expanse of energy swirling around it. Hear me, child of the storm. You, who embody the untamed fury of the tempest, I bestow upon you a name. The energy coalesced, forming intricate symbols that danced around Veldanava's hand before flying towards the young dragon. The symbols sank into the dragon's scales, causing them to glow momentarily before fading. A profound silence descended upon the desolate landscape. Then, with a voice that rumbled like a distant avalanche, Veldanava spoke the chosen name. Veldora, the storm dragon. The name echoed across the wasteland, carried by the wind and amplified by the storm. Veldora roared in response, the sound a magnificent display of raw power and newfound identity. The storm above mirrored the dragon's elation, the lightning flashing with renewed vigor. But amidst the celebration, a sudden change jolted everyone present. The air crackled with an unnatural energy, a dark aura emanating from a point far beyond the platform. The once turbulent storm clouds above stilled, replaced by a swirling vortex of inky blackness. An oppressive silence descended, smothering the celebratory roar of the young dragon. Veldanava's smile faltered, a flicker of concern crossing his features. The primordial angels tensed, their forms radiating a protective light around the creator. All eyes turned towards the ominous vortex, a sense of foreboding settling upon the desolate landscape. Despite the chilling atmosphere, Veldora remained unfazed. He turned his head slowly, his gaze locking onto Reinhardt, who stood stoic on the platform. The dragon's eyes, once filled with newfound pride, now burned with a renewed intensity. This unexpected turn of events wouldn't deter him. The challenge he issued to Reinhardt still stood. The storm may have faltered momentarily, but the fire within Veldora, the storm dragon, had just been ignited. And as he glared at Reinhardt, a silent promise crackled through the oppressive air, this was just the beginning. The storm would rage on. The oppressive silence stretched, broken only by the low growl emanating from Veldora's throat. Veldanava's brow furrowed, a flicker of worry flashing in his eyes. He turned towards Reinhardt, his booming voice now tinged with a hint of awkwardness. Reinhardt, he addressed his son, your aura. It seems to have a rather unsettling effect on Veldora. Reinhardt tilted his head slightly, his golden gaze unwavering. Unsettling, he echoed, a hint of amusement dancing in his voice. Perhaps it's simply my presence, father. After all, I represent the antithesis of your creation. Veldanava sighed, his shoulders slumping slightly. Indeed, your aura is troublesome, it induces many things. An instinctual fear, a primal terror, it washes over all living things in your presence. Even Veldora, a newborn with immense power, cannot escape its effects. The young dragon's growl intensified, a tremor shaking the platform. He whipped his head towards Veldanava, a storm of confusion and frustration swirling in his electric blue eyes. He roared, a challenge laced with a hint of desperation. Why does he make me feel this way? Veldora boomed, his voice echoing across the desolate landscape. I am Veldora, the storm dragon. I will not fear the weak. Veldora at this time is still bratty so. Veldanava raised a placating hand towards the enraged dragon. Veldora, calm yourself. Reinhardt isn't here to harm you. He is simply here to greet his uncle. He tried to reason with the newly born dragon, hoping that a fight won't break. But Veldora wasn't listening. The primal fear ignited by Reinhardt's aura had morphed into a different kind of storm, a tempest of defiance. With a mighty roar that shook the very foundations of the platform, Veldora unleashed his power. Lightning, far more concentrated and furious than before, arced from his horns, striking the platform with a deafening crackle. The obsidian ground beneath his claws shattered, replaced by a churning vortex of pure energy that mirrored the storm raging above. The once docile celebration had morphed into a chaotic battleground, all because of the unintended consequence of Reinhardt's presence. Veldanava winced, his eyes filled with a mixture of disappointment and concern. He had hoped to introduce his brother to his son peacefully, but Reinhardt's very existence seemed to be a catalyst for conflict. The future, it seemed, was far more unpredictable than even he had anticipated. The platform shuddered violently as Veldora unleashed his fury. Reinhardt, however, remained unfazed. He watched the storm dragon with an analytical glint in his golden eyes, a stark contrast to the chaos erupting around him. Veldanava's voice boomed once more, laced with exasperation as he sighed. Reinhardt, can you not see what you're doing? Veldora is a newborn, barely in control of his own power. There's no need for a fight, right? Reinhardt remained silent, his gaze fixed on Veldora's crackling form. He ignored his father's words, his mind preoccupied with a different observation. Even for a newborn dragon, Veldora's magical signature was impressive. It surpassed that of both Velzard and Velgrund, his sisters, even at their prime. A flicker of interest ignited within him. A cruel smile played on Reinhardt's lips. An impressive display of power. For a hatchling, he finally spoke, his voice dripping with condescension. Perhaps your fear is not entirely unfounded, Veldora. You do possess a spark worth nurturing. Veldora's roar intensified, tinged with a new emotion, fury. He wouldn't be belittled by this strange, fear-inducing being. He focused his power, a massive bolt of lightning surging from his maw, aimed directly at Reinhardt. The bolt slammed into Reinhardt's outstretched hand, dissipating harmlessly. Not even a flicker of surprise crossed his face. Impressive, he repeated, his voice devoid of emotion. But still far from enough. He raised his other hand, a malevolent aura swirling around it. However, with proper training, you might become a valuable asset. You will be placed under my tutelage, Veldora. Veldanava's face contorted into surprise. Are you sure? I never thought you would take interest in him. He sounded really pleased. Reinhardt ignored him, his golden gaze pinning Veldora in place. Do you accept, Veldora? Become stronger under my guidance, and perhaps, just perhaps, I might consider sparing your pathetic existence. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air. It wasn't a request, it was a command, one laced with a threat so potent that even Veldora, fueled by defiance, felt a tremor of fear. But the storm within him still raged. He wouldn't submit to this oppressive being. With a defiant roar that shook the very heavens, Veldora lunged, claws outstretched, towards Reinhardt. The battle lines were drawn. A few hours passed and the result of the battle ended with Reinhardt's overwhelming victory. Despite Veldora's effort to inflict damage, it was futile. He could not even leave a scratch against Reinhardt's clothes. If he has an abundance of experience like his sisters, then he might have a chance to injure, but sadly that is hardly the case. Veldora is now lying on a huge crater formed by his fall. He was knocked out of consciousness, and it appears that he won't be waking up soon. He exhausted almost all of his energy trying to harm Reinhardt, so this is not a surprising result. Oh right, if he does wake up, remember to remind him that he is not the second-born, all right. Considering his chaotic character, he might think that those two are younger than him. Even as a joke, I still don't want to see him exploding into nothingness. Veldanava made sure to remind Reinhardt about that. He already has a clear understanding of Veldora's character and he fears that the newborn might cause some trouble. I'll take that in mind, father. I'll bring him to the space where I was born, it is a suitable place to train. I apologize, but I might not see you for a while. If the two finally revived, please tell them that I am not sorry for what I did. Reinhardt gave Veldanava a smile as he vanished, carrying Veldora with him. Sigh, what a crazy son. Those two will surely get angry, especially when their new precious brother has been taken away from them. Veldanava fears the future that lies await. Dash. 10 comments 0 vote. Primordial of Red, Rouge. Dash. Centuries ago, before empires rose and fell, a lone figure stood gazing into the lifeless world. This was Jahil, the very first high human, born from the divine spark wielded by Twilight Valentine at the behest of Veldanava, the divine ancestor. Unlike the creations that followed, Jahil was different. His mind, a potent blend of intellect and ambition, craved more than mere existence. He yearned for control, a desire that grew stronger under the watchful eyes of the divine ancestor. Veldanava, in his boredom, envisioned a world teeming with diverse life. However, Jahil's erratic pursuit of knowledge and power clashed with the creator's vision. Frustration simmered in his personal laboratory. Twilight Valentine, the enigmatic researcher, deemed Jahil and his nascent race a failed experiment. Their insatiable hunger for knowledge and constant thirst for power deviated too far from the delicate balance Veldanava sought to achieve. So, Twilight moved on. With the help of the spirits that they fetched from the Queen of Spirits. Elves, dwarves, orcs were born, each a new note in the symphony of creation, carefully crafted to play a part in the grand scheme. Centuries flowed by, civilizations rose and fell, leaving their mark on the ever-evolving world. Meanwhile, Jahil and his kin, the high humans, thrived in isolation. Their advanced technology, a byproduct of their relentless curiosity, surpassed the fledgling nations scattered across the globe. But technology alone could not quell the emptiness gnawing at Jahil's soul. He yearned for dominance, for a world reshaped in his vision. That is why we are led to this current scene. In Euphoria, the capital of the High Human Empire, a testament to the ingenuity of its founder, Jahil. Within the Grand Council chamber, Jahil stood at the head of a long table, his piercing blue eyes scanning the faces of his advisors. These were his kin, the high humans, beings of exceptional intelligence and ambition. I just created that name since I can't remember what it was called. Jahil, their leader and self-proclaimed emperor, wasn't one for pleasantries. The other races squabble and stagnate, he declared, his voice echoing in the vast hall. They squabble over scraps while the world waits to be truly claimed. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The high humans, unlike their soon-to-be spawned brethren, were not content with simple existence. They yearned for knowledge, for power, for dominion. We, with our superior intellect and technology, have the right, the duty, to seize control, Jahil continued, his voice rising in intensity. We will forge an empire that encompasses all lands, a utopia ruled by logic and reason. The room erupted in cheers. The high humans, raised on ideals of progress and control, were captivated by Jahil's vision. They saw themselves as the rightful rulers, the shepherds who would guide the world into a new era. But Jahil knew technology alone wouldn't suffice. He had spent years delving into forbidden texts, unearthing the secrets of a long-lost art, summoning. For weeks, a team of the brightest minds in Euphoria toiled night and day within a secluded chamber. Here, under Jahil's watchful eye, a vast, intricate magic circle materialized on the floor. It was a marvel of arcane engineering, a swirling vortex of symbols and runes etched with precious metals and powered by rare magical crystals. Days turned into a tense vigil as they prepared the summoning ritual. Sacrifices were made, potent chants resonated through the chamber, and the air crackled with an unseen energy. Finally, the day arrived. Jahil, clad in ceremonial robes, stood at the center of the circle, his face illuminated by an eerie red glow emanating from the pulsating crystals. Sweat beaded on his brow despite the cool temperature, a mixture of anticipation and apprehension churning within him. He had never attempted anything like this before. With a final, resounding chant, Jahil unleashed the pent-up magical energy. The chamber pulsed with blinding light, the magic circle glowing so fiercely it seemed to devour the surrounding darkness. The very air vibrated with an otherworldly hum, a sound that resonates deep within Jahil's bones. Then, a deafening crack echoed through the chamber. The magic circle shattered, the precious crystals dissolving into dust. Smoke filled the room, obscuring the point of origin. Jahil coughed, his eyes watering, but a triumphant grin stretched across his face. It worked. How repulsive, using the blood of thousands of women and more souls than that just to summon me. I don't hate it, the demon spoke, staring directly into Jahil's eyes. Ha ha ha, great, this is fantastic, a demon of this caliber was summoned. Now, heed my words demon and eradicate those fools who dares to oppose us. Jahil was quick to move. He immediately ordered the demon in red to start the genocide. He didn't care about the feelings of the demon since he is certain about the restraints that he possesses against him. Jahil's words displeased the demon however since this is his first step into the cardinal world, he believes that eradicating nations shall serve as his warm-up. He didn't bother to take a second look at Jahil and just walked away, ready to finish his mission. Any settlements or kingdoms you may see on your way are enemies. Kill all of them, Jahil shouted with madness in his eyes, he can now picture his dream coming true. It won't be long, he is sure. Jahil made sure to place some kind of surveillance on the demon before letting him go and here he is right now watching the said demon getting close to a nearby kingdom. This surely will be interesting, Jahil muttered in joy. The demon, a wiry figure with blood-red hair that waved behind his back, surveyed the city with a sardonic grin. At 220 centimeters, he towers more than the average human, a stark contrast to the twisted image Jahil might have conjured. But size was irrelevant. The demon held a power that crackled around him, distorting the air with heat. He snapped his fingers, and a street lamp bent into a grotesque parody of itself, dripping molten metal onto the fleeing crowd. Jahil, perched high above the chaos, pumped his fist in the air. This wasn't the monstrous behemoth he envisioned, but the effect was the same. Panic flooded the streets, a symphony of screams that Jahil found strangely intoxicating. Yes, show them the true meaning of power. He roared, his voice barely audible over the whole empire he is situated in. The demon, however, seemed to take a perverse pleasure in the chaos. He skipped through the city, a whirlwind of destruction in a surprisingly small package. Buildings crumbled under the casual flick of a wrist, fire erupted from his fingertips like playful sparks. A thrill of dark amusement danced in his eyes, a stark contrast to Jahil's rigid, almost clinical, delight. This wasn't a calculated war machine, it was a twisted jester toying with his terrified audience. Despite the carnage, a flicker of unease flickered in Jahil's eyes. This wasn't the controlled dominance he craved. This was chaos, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. He had a leash, a failsafe, but the demon's playful sadism gnawed at him. That can't be. My leash is foolproof. There is no escaping its grip, Jahil muttered to himself. He ignored such little problems for now as he is more intrigued by the scene delivered by the demon. He can't recreate such scenery with his own power, so he can only satisfy his cravings with this. Demon, quickly erase this country and proceed to the next one. Jahil gave a telepathic order to the demon he summoned. Unbeknownst to him, the arrogance he is constantly displaying is further enhancing the wrath that the demon is currently bottled for him. Ah, how long is this going to continue? The demon thought, staring at the hellish landscape he created. It was a work of art if he may say so, but that is not what made him lose his patience. It is from the fact that some mere new creatures are trying to give him orders. It is not like he can't refuse the orders either, he can easily break the leash that they placed on him, but his pride won't allow him to simply walk away without paying his gratitude to the fools who raised him from the underworld. That action of theirs is worthy of genocides. Either way, it won't be long till I finish this. What should I do after that? Nah, the answer is already there in the beginning, there is no need to postpone their deaths. Filths of the world are required of cleansing, he'll at least bless them with his painful torture. The demon cannot find the perfect words to describe his emotions right now. He is high from the fact that he can now experience more entertainment other than his own kingdom in the underworld. However, he is also infuriated by the fact that insects believe themselves to be of hold to him. Their reactions are pathetic. I guess I expected too much. Demons are more pleasing to the eyes compared to these marching ants. The demon turned his dissatisfied gaze to the crowd of humans running around in panic. There wasn't a single being who dared to step up and confront him. That would surely earn his respect, but reality is far from imaginations. A few days have passed and the demon finally returned to the empire located in the north. Jahil was excited by the return because this means that the neighboring countries have already fallen to the vicious hands of the demon. He swiftly rushed to meet the demon but was frozen on his tracks when he witnessed what was happening at the gate of his empire. There, the demon was laughing to himself while skewered hundreds of high humans in the air. No, impossible. There is no way he can be doing this. I am his master. Jahil was enraged. He shouted with all of his might, trying to find the reason for this action. Jahil was grabbing his hair and was forcing logic into his head, but that all stopped when his eyes met the gaze of the demon. Exclamation mark, question mark. In panic, he immediately turned back and began running away. The bloodlust he felt from that gaze was enough to throw away all of his reasoning and just escape. Unfortunately for him, his speed cannot be compared to the demon. The demon instantly reached his side before its claw grabbed his head. Are you satisfied now? I cleaned up your ops. The demon grinned menacingly at Jahil, showing his feral grin. Why have you done this? I only ordered you to kill the other kingdoms. No, in fact, bow down before me right now. Remembering his restraint, Jahil ordered the demon to kneel before him, but the exact opposite happened. Jahil's knees were separated from his body. His eyes widened from the sight but was ultimately covered by the intense pain he felt. You were a fool thinking that such fragile chains will hold me. Perhaps, it might be because you haven't seen a demon before, but nonetheless. Your insolence is not worth forgiving. Worms like you should face the ground and slowly die. The demon followed his own words and planted Jahil's face into the ground. He also dismembered Jahil's hands, cutting all hope for escape. Without even looking back, the demon left Jahil to suffer in pain and humiliation until his death. He returned to the streets where all the citizens were screaming in panic. What took the demon's attention though was the single chant they always scream when they encounter him. It was a single word but somehow amused him more than ever. Jaya. I like the sound of that. Yaha. Fine. Since they are so persistent, I shall reluctantly call myself Guy. The demon, now named Guy, basked in delight as if he discovered the goal of his life. Oh, there were those two. They'd be useful in this situation. He suddenly remembered something, so he created a new summoning circle and forcefully pulled two demons that had pledged allegiance to him before. It was the result of the two challenging and losing to him. The circle lit up and the figures emerged from it. The first one to appear was a fellow primordial demon. This demon wears a deep red-made outfit with blue long-sleeved gloves. She has medium-length blue hair, blue eyes, and can be considered very beautiful. The second one was the same. Just like the first, she wears a deep red-made outfit with green long-sleeved gloves. She has curly long green hair, green eyes, and is also considered very beautiful. The two lowered their heads at the sight of Guy as they greeted him. We are honored to be at your service. Their greetings were mundane, but Guy will forgive them for he is in a good mood right now. Let's see. Blue, you will be called Rain starting right now in order to honor this magnificent rain of blood. Vert will be misery, for she embodies the despair and misery these pathetic creatures feel. I order you to painfully kill all of them. No use of large-scale magic so that they can savor their death more thoroughly. Guy smiled as he gave out his orders. Guy was about to continue his rampage when a large amount of souls suddenly gathered towards him. What is this supposed to be? He questioned but still accepted the souls. He is ready for some challenge that it might give. Unexpectedly though, instead of causing him discomfort, the souls actually nurtured his current body. Notice. Conditions have been met. Harvest festival for individual. Guy, will now commence. Guy was surprised but also happy to hear that. At least with his new profound powers, he has regained 10% of his powers that he possessed in the underworld. He will continue to strive until he will eventually surpass his previous self. And just like that, the first demon recorded in history has now been born. Ashura wasn't in the history because of Reinhardt, so Guy will be considered first. Meanwhile, in a galaxy billions of light years away from the cardinal world, two beings were clashing with each other. No, calling it a battle would be an overstatement. It was a simple scene of a large dragon running away from a normal-sized being. The two had no difficulty in breathing despite floating in space. They were just going at their own pace, playing a game of tag. No, get away from me, you monster. Why did my brother leave me with you? Quote. Veldora shouted as he sprinted in fear. The unique thing about this galaxy is that solar systems are close to each other, resulting in Veldora crashing into planets many times, and because of how far they are from the cardinal world, time moves differently. The difference would be 10 to 100. 100 years from this place is equivalent to 10 years in the original world. With that advantage, Reinhardt decided not to hold back in teaching Veldora everything he needed not to be under her sisters. Come on. This is far from over. In fact, only 1,800 years have passed. We have a lot of time in our pocket. Don't waste it with running away. Although Reinhardt said that, he is actually pleased with Veldora's progress. He is slowly getting a hold of his berserk-like energy, and is now properly using his brain to calculate the proper actions. If this progress continues, then he might end this training within just 2.5 millennia. That should be enough. After 2,000 years will pass, Reinhardt will then fix Veldora's attitude so that arrogance won't get into his head. Only those who have true strength can possess that, and for him, Veldora was far from worthy.